one point, I told you last time I was here, I gave up for a year and a half. I took a knee and said, I don't know what to do. This business becomes harder and harder every year. It becomes more and more expensive. It becomes more and more competitive. The costs keep going up. Real estate keeps going up. Rent keeps going up. And then the quality labor pool diminishes every year.
So yeah, no need for a huge intro. This is the return. This is like, I think it's the second guest to come back.
Oh, I'm
the
honored.
Return.
I'm honored.
Welcome.
Seriously and sincerely, I'm honored. I was excited to come back, and
I think we did it last summer. It was
it was a lot.
It's almost
I was
a year
a much
now.
better person then. I was more tan.
Stop. So what have you been up to these days? I've had the pleasure of bumping into you a couple times at Time Out, but I'm sure you're running around.
Yeah, I was keeping myself very, very busy, as most people in the restaurant business are forced to do. I'm on technically my first day one of this quarantine.
Right.
I closed up the shop, my stall at the Time Out market on Sunday at 3 p.m. And then today spent the day cleaning everything, moving all the small wares and everything out of there. And then met with my two partners, my investor and my business partner, and we went over an action plan and kind of talked about a lot of things, the past, present, and future, what was working, what wasn't working, and what we think is going to work moving forward.
Yeah.
So I think, especially my partner, she's a critical thinker.
Yeah.
She's very strategic, and I'm more renegade,
Like
tactile,
impulsive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the great synergy between her and I, is that one's left side of the brain, one's right, one's enigmatic and very logical, and one's creative, and then we both have a little bit of both.
Right. So do you think the plans, the strategies that you're going to implement, not just, I guess, you guys, because you probably have a good pulse on the the industry as a whole. Do you think what people are implementing now will have lasting effects once this martial law has lifted?
I can hope for the best like any other human being, but expect the worst, and I think that's a smart move. There's the thing I love the most about the restaurant industry, but especially the hospitality community in Chicago, is that it's very incestuous. It's very tight-knit.
Communal, yeah.
It's a band. It's a brotherhood. And it's basically a family. Especially if you look at the blueprint of what's prevalent right now out there in the restaurant world in Chicago. 30 years ago, we were all in a different world. We were all behind the lines. We were all behind the scenes. We were all soldiers. And now a lot of us are generals. And so it's created this really amazing cohesion of philosophy and soul and real and coming from integrity, like a place where it's very, very genuine, and we're all really concerned about each other, because whether you're the biggest group or the smallest group, it affects us severely, but especially for the little guys.
Yeah.
I only had this food hall, and I'm involved in the pop-up restaurant space. Although I don't have much of an active role in that. It's mostly programming, and this is really, if you think about it, what represents restaurants to me, at least, and what I think and what I try to preach or instill in the people that work with me or around me, is that the main reason a restaurant is there is to provide pleasure. Yeah. Right. You look at after every natural catastrophe, crisis, or disaster, the first thing that pops up are restaurants. Right after Katrina, they put all this money into placing restaurants and offering restaurateurs and chefs incentives to open restaurants, because it brings a sense of comfort. Yeah. It creates jobs. Yeah. It creates a hub for a community to build around. Right. One restaurant, the smallest restaurant, can hire a couple dozen people. You have a bigger restaurant, you're hiring 150 people. Mm-hmm. What was a problem the last couple of years in Chicago is not having the resources and not having enough line cooks and staff to go around. Now that's been completely obliterated. And what's going to happen? Now all those people have nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
You can't go work in another restaurant because your restaurant closed, because all restaurants are closed.
Right.
You only have a skill set, and you only have a passion that you've been cultivating or nurturing for the last X amount of years. So now, how do you stay positive?
Right.
What are you doing emotionally and mentally?
What are you doing to survive?
Exactly.
I think people put together a proposal, a letter to the governor.
Yeah, we've all done it.
Right, to ask for help.
Yeah, they were all thanking the governor, and I was typical for me. I openly on social media was like, I don't think Pritzker. I think what he did is something that he had to do, and he's obviously looking out for the best interests of the masses and the general public, which is great. And I'm not contesting that, but I think there was a different way to go about it. It's there's a way to serve someone. You can just throw it on the table and say, hey, there you go, or you can say, hey, this is what you're about to get served, and this is what's involved, and here are the ingredients and the whole 9 yards. I hate to use that cliche, but for me, I just think I understand the sense of urgency. Don't get me wrong. I'm all about health and wellness and
Right.
Whatever's great.
Especially after that St. Patty's Day weekend when people are just like,
Absolutely. So I think, there needed to be, here's the thing. I look at martial arts and the way I've been trained and about a lot of other things that I try to use and apply in my life. And I think that there's certain things that are inevitable. So I think absolutely coronavirus affecting Chicago and coming to Chicago, it is inevitable.
Right. So
instead of all the prevention and then the general, like, okay, if you've got a nosebleed, cut off the head, which is how I feel like they dealt with this. I think you should be a critical thinker and say, okay, well, it's inevitable it's going to come here. When it does come here and it is a pandemic that's spread to Chicago and the Midwest, what's the action plan moving forward from there? What steps do you take? What do you do? Not in retrospect, but what do you do? Like, okay, hey, we have 50 cases and 7 people died. It's here in Chicago. Okay, at that point, there's levels of severity and there's a pecking order, and, nothing ever goes as planned, but at least have an action plan of what to do once it was here. To just openly cause panic. People are buying toilet paper because they don't know what else to do.
That's the current currency.
Exactly.
Toilet paper.
Right? So there's that. I don't have all the answers. I certainly think that, shit rolls downhill and cream rises to the top. And, I'm not going to make any personal opinions on our government leadership or any political statement. But like I said, shit rolls downhill.
So
cream rises to the top.
Would there be a medium for you between just simply doing takeout orders, to-go orders, delivery orders?
Yeah, I think we should make Michael Muser the partner.
What's he gonna? What do you want him to
I
do?
think we should make him mayor, governor, or president of the United States, because, rather than having someone that grew up in politics and has a background in politics, or our current president who has a background and experience and pedigree of failure in everything he's done. You think about the restaurant business, it is literally the most unpredictable business there is. And you have to think on your feet, and nothing ever goes as planned, as we spoke of last time I was here. And so you should put someone
who practices martial arts.
You should put someone that crushes the restaurant business and put them in charge.
Right.
Because you can throw a million balls at them and
they'll be able to handle it.
Yeah.
Well, in addition to that, I mean, even if we, decided, this day, just delivery, just takeout, just to go, we think about like 5 steps ahead of that and the repercussions of everyone in the hospitality industry. What are they,
I'm just going to say what my personal thought is, so far from where it originated till now, from a month and a half ago till now, the survivability rate is like 98.9%.
Yeah.
And it gravely affects the elderly. So why am I worried? Is because I'm worried for my parents. My parents are elderly. My dad's
Absolutely.
85. My
Absolutely.
mom's 77. So rather than say, okay, no NBA, no NHL, no MLB, no concerts, no restaurants, you come up with a well thought process or statement to say, hey, maybe if you're over 60, you should think about staying home. And because,
Right.
and I get it. I mean, it's like herding cats any way you do it.
Yeah.
I don't know what the easy answer
No,
is, but
Trump was reluctant to speak out early on because
Well,
of
that's
his
the thing
his image.
well, that's just it. Like we needed guidance. We needed direction. We needed a general manager, right? That kind of had an action plan because he
Yeah.
went from saying he stopped it in China to saying it was a hoax to now 18 different variations of what he originally said, which was that it's fake news and
Right.
produced by the liberals and the whole nine yards. But I do agree on one thing. It's not a fatal disease for people my age and younger.
No, but it's the
It is a thing. It's very dangerous.
Right.
I'm not.
You're not dismissing it.
I'm not dismissing it, discounting it. I'm not making a reductive statement about coronavirus in general. Just as a Chicagoan and a person that's also in the health industry and found out today that all gyms quite possibly will
even
close.
condo gyms.
Yeah. Yeah. Gyms, restaurants. So they're the two things that are my livelihood, my joy, my passion, my hobby. They're my everything, which is why I wanted to come today and talk because
Yeah.
last time we spoke at long length about the restaurant
Other things,
business,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is only one side. I don't know about you, but I got a lot of great feedback from friends and
Oh, I'm glad to hear
just people on social media that follow me. I got a lot of emails and inbox messages. They're like, we want to hear about this. We want to hear about that. And, I've always romanticized the idea of writing some sort of journal, memoir, book, just like my friend Phil Foss did. And, I recommended that he is someone that you reach out to and
Okay.
get on the show. And, maybe we can
it. Yeah.
co-host a show, or I'll
Yeah, let's-
definitely send him
let's do it.
Your email and exchange your information in math so that you guys can speak, because I think it would be of large value to a lot of people in our industry to hear his story and hear about his book and his trials and tribulations, because it affects every single one of us at some level,
Right.
in the restaurant business,
Right,
but also as human beings. So today I kind of wanted to, talk about some things that, basically I wanted to come talk about, some things that I'm very passionate about, martial arts being the other side of the coin that we didn't really delve too much into.
Yeah.
My health, a lot of people associate me with, being a survivor and battling a disease. A lot of people didn't know about it because it happened 7 years ago.
Right.
And I always love talking about that subject. And then, obviously food, because if you look at a lot of my social media, it's kind of like
It's brought many people together.
it's kind of like Food and Wine, GQ, and Playboy all mixed together in a sense. So it's been great because I've gotten a lot of feedback from people since I did the your episode last year, which was almost a year. Well, almost a year ago.
Yeah.
And I when we were talking to each other, I kind of said, I think the title of the episode should be like Burgers, Tequila, and Fighting Dirty, because there's other things I'm passionate about and very focused on, and that I love.
Right.
And you know what? You're the sum total of your experiences, and you're the sum total of who what you do.
That's who you are. Yeah.
And as you know, because we went and enjoyed one
Thanks for
last week.
introducing me to Scofflaw. It's top 3 for me now.
This is a body made by burgers. I drink a lot of tequila. I drink probably 15 cups of coffee a day. I think one of the only reasons I got into the restaurant business was one, so I could avoid all family gatherings and holidays, and two was unlimited coffee and caffeine.
Okay.
And then Fighting Dirty, which is
Fighting Dirty.
Everybody
the
asks
handle.
me, why is your Instagram? Well, because I wanted to have a distinct separation or difference between my business page and my personal page.
Okay.
And there's I guess we can start with that. I fight dirty. Fighting dirty is kind of my own form or style of martial arts.
Right.
It's also something I kind of live by because there's a way you have to be. When you see me if anybody's ever seen me in one of my restaurants, I'm in a suit. They don't know I have tattoos. A large portion of my repeat guests, regular guests, guests that have followed me back from 18 years ago from my first restaurant or when I was managing restaurants, they've never seen this side of me.
Interesting.
They only see me as the guy that is the voice on the phone,
Right,
or
right.
the person at the table that buys them a dessert, or asks them how they're doing, or says goodbye and thanks
Right.
for coming in. So, like everything else in life, I'm really happy now because at one point I used to be sad. I'm really, really strong now because at one time I used to be very weak. I'm very positive right now because I lived in a world surrounded with negativity. So, you kind of create yourself. You're always trying to create a better version of yourself. You're a lobster that changes its shell and is very
Right.
vulnerable. And
Yeah.
I've, just like a lobster, I've shed many shells. And I think, that's part of evolving.
Yeah.
To evolve as a human being, you need stimulus. A lot of times you have to stimulate yourself
Put yourself in
and create
difficult situations.
adversity and,
yeah.
so that you're not on a comfortable path. And
Right.
that's another thing we talked about last time is that, I felt like I was on a path that was too comfortable. So I did some things to make myself uncomfortable. Some worked out, some didn't. Being broke is very uncomfortable, but it's only temporary and it's,
Right.
that's only a state of mind. It's temporary.
Right,
You're never poor.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, fighting dirty. I got beat up every day.
Physically or mentally or both?
Both. So from the time I was in kindergarten, because much like people from my era, I'm going to turn 54 in 3 weeks. I grew up in the only neighborhood my immigrant parents could afford when they first came here. My mom came here pregnant with me in her belly,
Wow.
and so she struggled, and she had to find a job where she could, not have to speak English. So we moved. My mom lived in 53rd in Hyde Park.
Oh, dope. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and she got a job in Monica Eng's family's luxurious penthouse Polynesian restaurant and nightclub.
Wow.
And that's where she learned English and learned the whole culture. And the only downside of that is at the time, let's just say in 1966 to 1973, which is how long I lived there, it wasn't the best neighborhood.
Okay.
It was very urban. We lived in the hotel.
Oh, okay.
My mom had a little studio hotel room with a kitchenette.
Was she single at the time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Single,
Wow.
raising me,
Oh, wow.
pregnant with me, and then
Then
raising me.
you, yeah.
And turned 5 years old. I have to go to kindergarten. My school, Bret Hart, was across the street from the Museum of Science and Industry.
Oh,
So
man, that's cool.
as a 5-year-old kid,
Yeah.
6-year-old kid going to kindergarten, I would walk from 53rd all the way across the street from the Museum of Science and Industry.
That's really cool.
So that left me very vulnerable and prey to a
Well,
lot of.
yeah, if it was, how, like, danger-wise, how bad was it?
Well, you think about it now, like that's crazy. You look at all
It's
the predators
beautiful
out
now.
there. Yeah, you look at all the predators that are out there now. They weren't as prevalent before because they weren't all connected and communicating with each other through the internet. But anyways, aside from that, there were all the kids that went to my school. I went to a predominantly African American
Okay.
school, and I was preyed upon mainly because I was different.
Different, okay.
But at the time, it was a lot of attacks on me, not culturally, but it was the times. They stole my shoes, my lunchbox. I went through 30 lunchboxes. They beat me up every day and would take money, and I would hide.
So at that age, did you think it was it was a race thing, or did you find
No, not at all.
some black people actually on your side?
So let me tell you something. It was actually the opposite. It was absolutely not a race thing, and I'll tell you why. Because I didn't experience racism until I moved to an all white
Whoa.
neighborhood. So they beat me up, like I said, for money, candy bars. I would hide 25 to 50 cents somewhere on my body in my shoe, and they would always find it. They would steal my shoes. They would...
Oh.
So one day I get beat up so bad. I'm walking down the street. I'm in the middle of third grade, and 4 kids jump out of a gangway. They beat me up. They take my pants because I was literally one of the people that had the goofiest pair of cargo pants in third grade in 1972, and the pockets on the side of the legs, and they stole my pants. They beat me up, and then they sprayed me with the fire extinguisher. So I come walking in the house, and I've got
Covered in this.
I've got no pants on.
Yeah.
I'm covered in foam. The foam's pink because I got a bloody nose and a bloody lip.
No.
And I'm not even crying. You know, I got beat up pretty badly, but I was like so pissed off. And I'm just like, you know, I walk in the door, and my mom's yelps out, yelps. She's like, "Oh my God!" And
Right.
get the fuck out of this neighborhood.
Right.
And then in the middle of third grade, you know, my parents again, they've done everything for me, especially my mom.
Yeah.
They literally borrowed money, emptied out their bank account, and they bought an Irish pub in Andersonville.
Okay.
So in the middle of third grade, it's winter. It's like the end of January. We move. We go from 53rd South
Yeah.
to 5300 North.
That's so cool.
So I literally
Wow.
went from one polar
To the
end of
other
the
end,
city
yeah.
to the exact polar
Right.
opposite, from 53 South
Well, that's
to
like
5300
Foster. Yeah.
North.
Yeah.
Bryn Mawr. So my
Bryn
parents,
Mawr, yeah.
yeah, they bought an Irish pub called McPartland's Inn.
Okay.
And my parents, we went into it, and I won't regurgitate it, but the story behind that is when I moved there, their first day of school, I'm standing in the, you had to stand in line, I remember, outside, and you had to walk in by class in lines.
Uh-oh.
It's the middle of January, standing in line, and a kid comes up behind me and bear hugs me and then slams me to the ground, knocks me cold out. I'm 8 years old. I'm literally, I think I was dressed in a suit because my mom was a Korean mom and dressed me like an accountant for the first day of school. So he knocks me out. When I come to, he's sitting on top of me.
Yeah.
And he's sitting on my chest. And I later found out he failed third grade like twice. Should have been in fifth grade. I'll never forget his name. His name was Nicky Adams, if you're out there.
Fuck you, Nicky Adams.
Oh, man. I'm gonna... So he's sitting on top of me, and he's got a mood ring on. So I'm showing
Oh
my
my
age. He's
God.
got a mood ring on, and the mood ring's black. And he's like, here, let me do this right. I'm Nicky Adams, you fucking chink. And he's like, I run this school. And I'm like, I'm sitting there, and I'm seeing literally like stars, and you know, you've got that ringing in your
you're in a
ears,
daze,
and that
yeah.
feeling, you know, that feeling in your nose, like when you've maybe been dunked underwater.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Yeah.
I had that feeling from, you know, being hit on the back of the head on the ground. I was sitting there, I'm trying to gain my composure, and there's literally 30 strangers I've never met before, 30 kids all circled around. It's like right out of the movies. They're like, fight,
Oh my
fight.
God.
You know, like chink. And I'm thinking, okay, I don't know what a chink is, but it can't be good. I never even heard the word before.
Wow.
So on the south side, in reference to your statement earlier,
Yeah.
all the African American kids beat me up because they were hungry. They wanted my food. They wanted my money, and they didn't use. What were you going to use the money for in third grade? You're going to buy candy. You're going to,
Right.
you know, the same thing I used the money for.
Right.
Or my lunchbox, because my mom threw down. Like, my mom was a chef. I had like tomato soup, and I had like, you know, salami on rice sandwiches and all this great stuff, and a lot of time Asian food, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, they'd make fun of me. Ching chong ching, and they'd do all this stuff.
Yeah.
Chinese, Japanese, but it was never. I never heard chink. I never was assaulted or beat up because of my race. So the very first day in an all white Irish Catholic, predominantly Anglo school on the north side of Chicago in 1973, I'm literally knocked out on the first day of school. And I'm like, okay, this sucks. this is horrible. This is not going to be good for me. If I'm starting out here, it's just going to go down here.
No.
Right. So it kind of realizes, and something pops in my head. I have a come to Jesus moment, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
Because a couple things ran through my head. Now, in retrospect, the Christmas Story scene where Ralphie is always accosted by the bully.
No.
And gets jumped in the snow.
Right.
And, you know.
Right.
I kind of snapped. I was always this very submissive, scared, lived in fear every day because I knew the minute I walked out the door, either my house or the school, that I was probably going to. The probability and the chances of me getting beat up were really high.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I've got to make a stand. I'm sick of this shit.
Where did you, like, who motivated you or inspired you to come to that realization?
Great question. So my mom had always told me, like, fight back. Don't be nice to everyone, but don't take any shit from anyone. You tell that to an 8-year-old kid. That's, yeah, sure, Ma. There's
interesting
3 kids standing in front of me, beating the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to fight back, sure. So it's funny because it wasn't fear. It was, I guess it was that Joaquin Phoenix Joker moment when I just had this freedom. I snapped.
Oh, okay.
I said, that's it. I can't take this anymore. What I couldn't take was the ridiculing. What I couldn't take was the 30 people I didn't even fucking know yet, chanting for my demise and, wanting this 5th grader to beat the shit out of me.
Yeah.
So I kind of, I went apeshit. I lost my mind and I went blind. I said, fuck it. There's not 3 of them, right? They're calling me this name that I don't even know what it is. And everybody's laughing and making fun of me. Mm-hmm. And it lit a fire in my ass. So my fear immediately turned into anger. Mm. So that anger is a funny thing because fear can burn you like fire, but so can anger, right? Mm-hmm. Your mind is a 2-headed monster.
Right.
It can serve a great purpose, but it could also eat you up inside. And it had been eating me up inside and was my own worst enemy for the longest time.
Okay.
And then it turned. And the next thing I know, the teacher's running out and she's literally kicking me probably 4 feet and off.
Because you were doing that much damage?
I'm sitting there on the ground and I look and I realize those kids aren't chanting anymore. And she looks down and you have to understand it's January in Chicago. And back then it was always cold and lots of snow. There was a body and it looked like a pizza at the top of the body. And then there was like the blood spatter. And so I had literally like gone nuts and I was like speaking in tongues like,
to Nikki?
Yeah.
Oh.
And so I beat this kid up and he's not moving and the teacher's horrified and everybody just kind of froze because they saw the actual snapshot of what was going on at the time. And then I got sent to the principal's office. I was a problem kid on the first day of school. And then I was...
Wait, but I thought this was that the first day? This all happened was the first day.
This was all
so you
on the
snapped
first day.
on the first day.
I snapped on the first day.
Okay.
So I'm sitting in the principal's office and the principal's like poking me in the chest. And he's like, I don't know if this is, what you think this school is like the school on the side. So then I'm the crazy...
Come on.
I'm the crazy kid from the south side of Chicago.
They don't know that Nikki Adams is a problem if you got held back 2 years?
I'm sure they did. But
Right.
at that time in 1973...
They're gonna blame someone who looks different?
I don't know. I can't. I thought about that moment a lot.
Right.
But it's one of the defining moments that made me who I was.
Or not just look different, but someone who is an outsider coming into the new neighborhood.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, that set up a whole and perpetuated a whole wretchedness within myself that I carried through until my mid 30s. Because of the business I went into, I became a bouncer. I ran security. I was doing all, and that's why, this whole pedigree started there. So from literally that day forward, I was fighting everybody. Then everybody wanted to challenge me. Everybody was like, oh, this is a kid from the south side to beat up the guy that's, 2 years older than him.
Yeah, that was your reputation.
And then that was my reputation. And then, I contributed to it wholeheartedly because I would rather be seen as a kid that's nuts and angry and a good fighter. And even though that was my first fight, than the scared little guy that's always getting beat up
Mm-hmm.
and everything's stolen from him,
Mm-hmm.
and is mainly my humility
Yeah.
as a person,
Right.
as a kid.
Right.
So I'll never forget the weirdest thing happened. Like most things in life, my two Korean cousins came here from Korea,
Mm-hmm.
South Korea. They were on their way to Ohio, where their father had always set up and was working in a job, but they stopped in Chicago for 3 months. They were going to live here with me and my family until they moved to
Oh, cool.
Ohio. The greatest thing about that was that one was in 8th grade, one was in 5th grade, and they both had learned Hapkido and Taekwondo and wrestling in high school, in grade school.
Yeah.
Because unlike the American school system, instead of dodgeball and
That's what they got over there?
so they would teach them
that's
Taekwondo.
amazing.
It's a
Oh, my
national
God.
sport,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So my cousins both taught me 3 things. And they said, this is all you need to know. This is all we're going to teach you. And, they barely spoke English. So my mom would translate because she told them, hey, talk to your cousin because he keeps getting into fights at school. And so my cousins showed me 3 things. And to this day, they're the 3 things. It's fighting dirty. I've studied Hapkido, Kung Fu, the last 20-some years, Shidokan, which is a hybrid of 3 martial arts. Aside from that, being in all the street fights that I've been in since I was 8 years old, and then the 300 to 400 altercations I was in,
Right.
you can't count those because people are always drunk, so that isn't a fair fight, right? I've gotten vast experience in my 53 years of what it means to stand across from another human being, and that human being want to hurt you in some way. And then aside from that, just, growing up in the city before 3rd grade as a child, and then after 3rd grade as a youngster, a teenager, and then a young adult. And then the things I did after that, like making the decision to be a bouncer, and at the time it's a job position or a role that doesn't exist anymore. There's security
Oh.
now, or security staff.
Sure.
It's usually someone you outsource because of insurance. But back then, the nightclubs in the 80s and 90s, I had at one place I had 40 bouncers working for me.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and I ran security at 3 or 4 of the biggest, most well-known nightclubs in Chicago.
Okay.
A lot of times I did small bars. I did consulting. People would have rave parties and loft parties, and then me and my guys would moonlight and
Wow.
do that. And so getting back to, that is the genesis of what created I Fight Dirty.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool.
But then as an adult, what I realized is that in martial arts and in life, you can try to be a nice person. I'm in hospitality. I treat everybody
Right.
extremely well. It's my nature.
Right.
A lot of people.
That's
Pray.
the Jason we know now.
Yeah.
Right. At what point?
I think it magnifies the fact that I grew up and was so part of who I am, of always defending myself or someone else, because I never start a fight. I've never ever in my entire life started a fight.
Right.
I always was taught to try to end them or neutralize them. Later in life, the last 15 years of my life, I've only gotten into maybe 2 or 3 altercations, and I do everything. But you also have to know that, let's just say this, in the last 10 years of my life, I've had maybe 50 situations where people would purposely try to start a fight with me, or selectively out of a whole room of people, maybe a concert,
What?
look right at me and be like, because when you're passive,
They think you're easy
when you
target.
put on this, I'm a very positive, happy person. I'm smart. I choose my battles. I don't go to any venues where there's large groups of people, of drunk, intoxicated people. I stay away from street fairs. I stay away because for me, that's just not me. I'm also the quirkiest human being you'll ever meet because I am very, very social
but
by
intentionally,
trade.
yeah.
But when I'm not at work, I'm a very private, introverted person. I like being alone. I like being at home. I like my privacy.
Hmm.
I like to go to places that aren't busy
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because my lifestyle has always been one that, put me in a scenario where I was always in a very vibrant, a lot of sounds, noises,
Right.
smells,
Right.
people. When you're in that business for a living, the last thing you
It's
want
exhausting.
is to be on
Yeah.
and to be part of a collective when you're not, when you don't have to. I want to just relax
Veg out.
by
Yeah.
myself or with someone that's important to me. And
Right. And so, who was it? Were your cousins that opened your eyes to traditional martial arts? To give you
yeah,
some
because
direction of
they also
to like hone in and harness your passion or anger towards that?
they taught me reality fighting.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I'm moving towards now in my future is not opening up a dojo per se, but opening up a gym
Mm.
or school, call it, where you can definitely come to my dojo and learn traditional martial arts,
Mm-hmm.
which I was taught. Korean, Japanese, and Chinese martial arts,
Mm-hmm.
right? As well as Western. Certainly teach you that. But what I would like to do is, first and foremost, do what I do now and currently for the last 6 years, which is really one-on-one, because everybody's different. And maybe you want to learn boxing. Maybe you want to learn real traditional karate, or maybe you want to learn kickboxing. So it depends. And a lot of people don't want to be in a class. They don't feel socially comfortable.
Right. Right.
Maybe that's one
It's
of the reasons.
intimidating.
Yeah. But what I really want to champion and what I really want to focus on is doing a 3 to 5 day seminar of how to fight in the street. And what I mean by that is that what I've learned, and most of all myself, is that I could teach you karate for 5 years. Someone else could go take jiu-jitsu at a Gracie school for 5 years. Another person could take boxing for 5 years. And then you could get a black belt. The Gracie person could get a brown belt. The boxer that takes boxing classes for 5 years and then does the golden gloves and wins, gets a trophy. But then they walk into the street of Chicago at 2 a.m. today.
Yeah.
Do you have a false sense of security because I'm a boxer and won a trophy or I have a black belt?
Right.
You do. It's not a false sense of security. It's a sense of confidence and ability to know that you have a skill set to defend yourself. But people in the street, when they attack you, they're either stupid, high, or crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Usually stupid. Stupid's a big common denominator in this world right now. And so what happens is that, do you have the training to know that, well, at 2 a.m, anybody approaches you isn't going to approach you for a good reason. They'll walk up to you with a plastic bag in their hand and they'll ask you what time it is. Now, a normal human being, how do you assess that? Well, hey, it's 2 a.m. What's in the plastic bag? And why is he asking me what time it is? It's 2 a.m. So he's going to hit you with the bag. There's something in the bag he's going to hit you over the head with. And he's asking the time so you'll get close. And he's also simulating if you're intoxicated or how stupid you are and how easy of a prey you are, that you're gullible enough to let someone walk up to you at 2 a.m. and ask you what time it is. And then, the techniques, everything that I've been taught, one of the greatest things about Shidokan and the people that have currently taught me and gotten me to where I'm at in Shidokan, mainly my Shihan, Eddie Yoshimura, they do it in the military, and I utilize it in every aspect of my life, especially in the restaurant business, because no matter how much you train a student or an employee, they never rise up to everything that you showed them and taught them. They settle down and into what they know.
Right.
So my cousins, it's amazing to me because my cousins, 45 years, taught me the most valuable lesson about fighting. They told me 3 basics, and it's what I've used in everything I've ever done on the street. In the dojo or in the gym or in a class or with a student, it's different. It's polar. It's the antithesis of what I do. In the street,
Right.
There's no martial arts.
No,
There's no
anything goes.
technique.
Yeah.
So the art of fighting dirty is literally, I'm not trying to be sexist in any way or stereotype or be gender specific, but and it's not meant to be reductive or diminutive,
Sure.
to fight like a girl, pull hair. And that's what I teach in sexual assault prevention. Like, yes, absolutely fight like a girl, which was the moniker that was attached to it for the longest time, which is pulling hair, biting, scratching the eyes, leaving marks on the body. Absolutely. Because in this day and age, you can pretty much bet dollar to donuts that anybody that's approaching you on the street is trying to hurt you, maybe kidnap you, maybe rape you, maybe just because we live in a culture now, they want to put it on social media that they knocked you out. It's a fucked up place.
Yeah.
And so you have to, and again, I'm Buddhist by nature too. So am I compromising my own belief system by looking the other way or turning the other cheek, or
neutralizer?
Hey, I'm not gonna intentionally hurt anyone, but I'm gonna protect myself. I'm gonna protect my loved ones. I want to show people that I care about how to protect people. And just like the restaurant business, I want to nurture strangers. I want to teach people, women, elderly, because those are the two biggest targets right now.
Right.
The number one target is elderly for street crime, and number two is women.
Yeah. What are some other situations that you find people being susceptible to? Like one, for example, I still follow that Ukrainian Village Facebook page, and a common one is where people would bump your car from behind, have you get out, their buddies come in, and they drive off with your car.
People prey on reactions, right? So what's your natural reaction? We live in a culture today where the first thing, road rage, it's already prevalent. The minute you get in your car, even I'm guilty of that. We're all human beings.
Right.
So, you're already put yourself in a scenario or an environment, which is your own car, because that's your comfort level. Like, everybody loves their car.
Yeah.
They have something, they have their music, they have their feathers hanging
it's
from
theirs,
there.
right?
It's
right.
your comfort zone, right?
Right.
And it's the one place you can actually not audit yourself. You can pick your nose. You can pull the underwear out of your butt. You can rearrange the troops. You can swear. You can, that guy's a fucking jagoff.
Right.
It's the one place where it's kind of your own personal cubicle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, everybody that's on the street is fighting dirty. They're going to try to sucker punch you. They're going to try to bump you because they know the reaction is you're going to hop out. And the thing about the street now that a lot of people don't teach you and no one really realizes is that there's always a team member. There's always someone else. There's always a backup. In other words, if there's one person that approaches you on the street, there's usually 2-3 other people somewhere on the fringe.
Yep.
It wasn't in the news, and I purposefully, I got a lot of attention for neutralizing a situation at my restaurant, and it was all over the news and the Daily Mail and Huffington Post. Last summer, at the end of the summer, I was with someone on Michigan Avenue at the Starbucks next to the Intercontinental Hotel, and a guy sat next to the employee that I was with. We're having coffee, talking about next week's operations, and the guy stole her wallet out of her purse, and I caught him and started punching him in the head.
Right then and there.
And then I looked, as soon as I started punching him and knew that he was neutralized, I looked to my left and I saw the two guys that were standing at the bus stop watching his back.
With him.
They both split and walked away.
Oh, of course.
And so you have to understand that, predators hunt in
packs. Yeah.
They pick out what's the most vulnerable? The person that's not paying attention. The person that's not aware of their situation, their surroundings, and is oblivious. The ones that are on this.
Yeah.
The ones that their head are down or not aware
What would
of their
you say? What if
surroundings.
someone came up to you while that was happening and they had a gun?
So a gun is
that changes things, right?
It changes everything. I've been in altercations where there's been a knife and a gun, and there's not really much you can do. You give them the money. It's your life. So I'm not going to risk getting shot in the face or getting stabbed. The last 2 times I had a knife pulled on me in a box cutter, I took my belt off and I towel whipped him in the face with my belt buckle.
Holy shit.
Like, like like Jason Bourne. But here's the thing: when it comes to a gun, there's nothing you can do unless they tell you to get in the trunk of your car. Unless they tell you to get in the car or the van, or tell you to they're going to take you somewhere.
Yeah.
Because then you're royally fucked. You're fucked if someone pulls a gun on you. But if someone wants to take you somewhere, it's worth a fight, because then you're most certainly going to be in a place that's hopeless.
Last fall, a girl on campus was followed off the blue line at Halstead, and then this guy was catcalling her, and she was like not having any of it. But he followed her all the way to the parking garage at UIC, killed her, put her in her car, and raped her.
Yeah. So criminals are cowards. That's why they say, "Don't scream, and I won't hurt you." Or they say, "Come over here in the alley, and I won't hurt you," because they don't want to be seen. They don't want to be exposed. They don't want to be exposed for what they are, which is a coward. So you have to meet you have to address. You have to choose your fights. If someone pulls a gun on you, absolutely take everything I got. It's not worth my life.
Mm-hmm.
Your life is worth everything if they're trying to get you to a place where they can take it away from you.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an assessment you have to do yourself.
What else has training and martial arts done for you aside from the practicality of it? Has it done maybe a stress reliever, but is there anything more to it?
It's my life, and I'm going to touch on the main parts.
Yeah.
Now in the last 7 years, this is the second time I'm battling something that begins with the word C. The last one was cancer. This one's corona. Physical health, what's more important is mental health. And the funniest thing is the instrument to get mental and emotional health is physical.
Right.
You have to do the physical to attain the centering, the self-confidence, the self-discipline, the self-control, the self-esteem. That all comes through all this vigorous, crazy, physical.
Almost primal.
Yeah. You civilize your soul by making your body savage. And that's something that martial arts is definitely about. So aside from that, secondly, endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, all the natural mood enhancers that you release when you really exert yourself. And, there's something about martial arts that I love, and it's an old samurai quote that, the ultimate warrior is the one that only truly challenges themselves, their own fears, their own limitations.
Yeah.
Physically, mentally, emotionally. We're always just battling ourselves. When I struggled with my health issue, I wasn't battling the disease or the treatment. The treatment was worse. I was battling myself on a minute-to-minute, second-to-second basis to stay positive on a cellular level, not just in my head. Say, "Oh, I'm going to stay positive and be happy and be strong." I'm, talking to a couple close friends that have been diagnosed with cancer now.
Oh, okay.
And, I just really try to stress, and it doesn't, I'm not preaching to be a medical wonder or a human being that knows more than anybody else. I think I'm very blessed, and I had a lot of variables in my life that I think attributed to my successful recovery.
Mm-hmm.
I did everything. I did everything and more than an average cancer patient, because I had a lot of friends who passed away from cancer and dealt with cancer before I actually was diagnosed with cancer.
But was it hard for you to ask for help initially?
It was and this is what I mean. I am very active on social media.
Yeah.
Before cancer, not at all.
Oh.
I didn't want anybody to know I had cancer. Oh. I didn't want, I was the sensei. I was the rock for all my friends. I was the employer for all my employees.
You didn't want to see show weakness.
I didn't. Yeah, and in a
or
way,
vulnerability, I guess.
Yeah, major vulnerability,
right.
Major put your heart out there for everyone to see it, and thanks to the universe, God, Buddha, Allah, whoever it is, my friends are like, "Fuck you, we're gonna start a GoFundMe page."
How did they find out?
So here's the story. When I was diagnosed with cancer, I went through a whole 8-9 month period before because I had to go to Cook County. I
That's
had to
insane.
go to Stroger, which was, here's what I'm going to use an analogy. Dealing with Stroger, Cook County was like me being in a knife fight and I had a dildo made out of fucking Swiss cheese.
Jello.
And it was a worse. That was one of the. So that was the appetizer for my whole
experience
with cancer, and it sucked because I literally went to Stroger at 7:30 in the morning. After the first time I went to Stroger, I had a routine. I would have my iPad, a book, headphones, and I would pack 2 meals. And I would bring 3 bottles of water because I would literally get there at 7:30. The clinic opened at 8, where I was supposed to get my ultrasound biopsy for the lump that was in my throat.
Okay.
And I went. Here's the thing: the ultrasound machine was only available every other Thursday.
So there were days where you waited and you didn't.
Every other Thursday, I would go there at 7:30. The clinic would open at 8, and by 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, I'd still be waiting there for a whole 12 hours, just so they could stick a needle in my neck and pull out cells from
a biopsy. Yeah.
Because the first time I went, it took 2 months for me to finally see a doctor, and they said, "Oh, put hot compresses on the lump." We did a white blood cell test. You have a lot of blood cells, you're fine.
Yeah.
We did a scan. There's no, we don't see a mass or anything. It's probably, it's a swollen lymph node.
Yeah.
So put hot compresses on it.
Right. Wow.
So I did that, and they said do it for 3 days. It kept getting bigger after a week, so I kept doing it for a week, and then I was like, I'm a man, like most men. Especially at the time when I was
try cutting it out yourself.
No.
Oh, okay.
I was like, I'll just get an extra hour's sleep. Maybe I'll put some Robitussin or Vicks on it. I was like, I'll get an extra hour's sleep or stop eating cake, whatever. And I was training one of my clients who was a doctor.
Yeah.
And, her name is Lauren Gerber. I love her. She's my therapist and a dear friend, and I love her dearly because she literally set this whole thing off. I was holding pads, and I went to talk to someone, and she said, "Hey, what's that on your neck?"
Oh.
And I said, "It's a swollen lymph node. I spar every day, so I got punched in the neck, or it's a swollen sweat gland." I go, "I don't know. It's fine." She's like, "Did you go to the doctor?" I'm like, "Yeah, my boss at work said you should go check that out, and he'd let me go for the day." And I went every day, and I couldn't get in. And when I finally did, they said it's a swollen lymph node. Just put hot compresses on it. And then she touched it. She goes, "That's what it's called, encapsulated." She's like, "Imagine a peanut with a shell around it. It's not good. You definitely have to go get that checked out." So then I went, and for the next 6 months, it was just waiting in the waiting
You had
room.
this shitty experience of waiting.
Horrible.
Wow.
It was the worst. And when I finally found out, the minute they told me what the diagnosis was, so I'm sitting there, and the doctor, Dr. Karen Schwartz, said, "You have squamous cell carcinoma. It's cancer. So we're going to have to do a neck dissection."
Like that?
Yeah. We're going to have to...
just said it with the straight...
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Well, yeah, they're very... doctors are very...
Yeah, but, yeah.
Not the best...
Not all
bedside manner, but I think she was trying to show me the severity, or just be as non-emotional as she could, so that it wouldn't trigger my emotions. Because I was already at a level of I want to stab everyone in the face with a fork in this hospital because I've had to wait 6 months to get to this point.
Right.
I'm not even going to go into the, after 6 months, it came back inconclusive. I'm like, well, what does that mean? They're like, we have to get a bigger gauge and do it again. I don't know if you've ever had a needle stuck in your neck.
No.
Yeah, it's the worst feeling in the world. And I have a really high pain threshold.
Okay.
So then I had to go back, and I waited 3 more months. And then to wait for the results was another month. And I'm like, you know what? I literally was enraged. I lost my temper. I was in the waiting room, and I literally walked up to the nurse. I said, "Here's my email. Just tell them to fucking email me the results. I've been here for 9 months waiting for you guys." And it's so funny. I had never seen her in the 9 months that I've been at Stroger. And I thought it was a sign. And like maybe some sort of a Korean nurse came out she was a harmony. She was probably 70 years old. She's obviously
Wow.
like a nurse's aide.
Yeah.
She came out and she had this beautiful wrinkled face that was full of color. And she said, "You have to stay. The doctor wants to see you last." And I knew right then, there's probably not going to be good news. And then she told me. And then she said, "Okay, we got to take out all your lymph nodes. We're going to do a next dissection. We're going to cut out everything tomorrow morning." I said, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're going to cut out your lymph nodes. And we're going to take them all out tomorrow." I said, "Okay." She's like, "Don't eat anything." She gave me a piece of paper. "Don't eat anything after midnight. Only fluids up until then. This, that, the other thing. Come back at 5 in the morning." I was there at 5 in the morning. I waited 8 hours. And they said, "Come back on Monday."
Oh my God.
Because we don't have enough operating rooms. I'm like, okay. So that whole weekend was not a good weekend. I didn't tell my girlfriend. I didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell any of my friends.
That you needed this procedure.
I didn't know
done.
much about
Oh my God.
cancer. I assumed, if they cut out my lymph nodes, then cancer's gone.
And no one would ever know.
And no one would ever know.
Oh.
I didn't go on the internet because you can have a fungus on your thumbnail if you go on the internet. It's like, "Oh my God, I got hepatitis C or whatever. I got the creeping funk." So that weekend was a hard weekend. I went in on Monday at 5 a.m. and when I woke up, I was in the hallway of Stroger. I came to and I immediately vomited and it hurt like hell. And there was just searing pain, like just this whole area was searing pain, right? And so they put me in a room an hour later, and I'm next to Ulysses, a pimp from the south side of Chicago.
Oh, cool.
And the first thing I do when I wake up, he's like, "Hey, man, you got a cigarette?" And I literally look at him, I go, "Shut the fuck up and leave me alone." I was not in a good mood, and he didn't know what was going on, but I wasn't having it. And I thought, this is just so asinine that I just had my throat cut open. He sees it. I had 21 staples in it looked like someone cut off my head.
Oh, wow.
And he's asking me for a cigarette.
Yeah.
And then it was a nightmare from then on. He had hookers come visit him, and
For real?
yeah.
Gotta keep the business open.
he literally had them bring his pit bulls, and they
No
wanted
way.
to bring him. Yeah, and the nurses made him keep him in the car. Like this, it was like a
County was
freak
a
show.
zoo before,
I
huh?
wanted to kill this guy. So long story short,
What about getting your teeth? Did you get you didn't like, did they tell you that you needed your teeth pulled?
so this is a story. I was in the hospital for like 2-3 days, and then they released me. And when they released me, it was, I'll never forget, because I got diagnosed with cancer on October 18th, my mom's birthday.
Okay.
And the reason I was so pissed off and upset that day was like just because I had waited there for so long, and I was supposed to go meet my mom and dad for my mom's birthday.
Right.
I literally, so they tell me I have squamous cell carcinoma, they tell me I have cancer, and then I have to and then I go rush off to dinner with my parents. And I'm sitting there and I'm putting on a happy face and don't want my parents to feel the projection of the news that I just got in any way whatsoever. Then, Monday comes around, I have this surgery. They let me out of the hospital on Wednesday. And I'll never forget, that was like about the 22nd or 23rd by now. And I put together a bucket list. I had a bucket list, but it was one of those bucket lists you put together because you watched the movie Bucket List, right? And you put it in a drawer somewhere, and it was like two things. Like, I want to go on a date with Salma Hayek, unrealistic shit. And, I want to be first Asian president of the United States, whatever. And I started to really just be real serious and think about, okay, and it at the top of the list was I want to eat at every 2- and 3-star sushi restaurant in Japan and Korea. I want to go to Korea because I've never been there. I'm Korean. I never met my biological father, and so why not kill like 2 or 3 birds with one stone? So it's October 22nd. I literally scheduled everything. I was told by a very close friend, Jeremiah Johnson, who's a very well-known architect, restaurant architect in Chicago. He battled and successfully survived testicle, colon, and stomach cancer.
Holy shit.
And the day that when I was told I had cancer, he said, Jace, sell everything, borrow all the money you can borrow, find out whoever it is that is the number one doctor for throat cancer. If he's in Timbuktu, go to Timbuktu. Beg, borrow, and steal money. Do whatever you can. This is your life. Call Ironman's Angels. Matter of fact, he's like, I'm going to come pick you up and take you there. So literally walking
what
out
was
of
that organization called?
It's called Ironman's Angels, which is
how do
a
you spell that? I remember.
Imerman.
Ironman. Okay, Ironman.
Angels. Ironman's Angels. It's Johnny Ironman, who also suffered from testicular cancer.
Okay.
And survived it. Started this one-on-one cancer support group that matches you up with someone within the same age range as you, that had the same type of cancer in the same stage, who survived it. So you now have a lifeline. You also you kind of have like a buddy,
a support,
an advocate that you can reach out to, because the fear of the unknown. You don't know what to expect. You don't know what chemo is going to be like. You don't know what radiation is going to be like. You don't know what anything is going to be like dealing with a disease like this, or the treatment. So they partner you up with someone so that you can actually look someone in the eye, or talk to them on the phone, or email them whenever you want. And they survived what you had.
Yeah.
So it's
hope.
It's crucial.
Yeah.
It's And so I'm lucky and blessed enough now to be a mentor angel. So I'm a mentor angel with Ironman's Angels, so that anybody that had stage 4 squamous cell carcinoma or throat cancer, that wasn't originated. Squamous cell carcinoma is originated from smoking. I was a very heavy smoker. It's not the HPV kind, which is prevalent right now.
Oh, okay.
So I made out my list. I booked my trip, and I was thinking, okay, well, I'll book it out, as far in advance as I can, but I want to try to go as soon as I can, because I don't know what's going to happen. So the happy medium was November 6th.
Okay.
The very next day after I booked my trip, the doctor calls me and says, okay, well, we took out your lymph nodes. We also took out your tonsil. We want to biopsy everything, send it to the lab. That's going to take a couple of weeks.
Oh, my God.
And we want you to come back in on November 5th for a scan. And we're going to do a full scan, PT scan of everything, to see if it's metastasized, if it's any other areas, because the natural first progression is to travel up to your brain,
right,
or to travel down into your lungs.
Okay.
So I said, well, November 5th, I just booked a trip, a food trip for a month, 5 weeks actually. I want to go to Japan and Korea. And I want to eat my face off and eat sushi. And they said, great, do that. If it's November 6th, your appointment's November 5th. And by the time you come back, you'll have the results. And just be very careful, because, I still had this huge incision on my neck. So I landed in Korea. My uncle picked me up. There's a great story that I want to write about meeting my biological father on this trip.
Yeah.
But I landed in Korea, stayed at my uncle's house. I had an interpreter, and then we traveled to Japan, and I was in Japan for 2.5 weeks, and I ate at every amazing. I ate at Jiro, Mitsutani. I ate everywhere, and then I flew back to Korea, but I went to Jeju Island. I went to Busan, Incheon, places my parents grew up in.
Okay.
My biological father and my mother. And then 2-3 days before I was supposed to head back to the States, I went back to my uncle's house and stayed with him and bonded with him and talked about my biological father. And then I came back the day before Thanksgiving.
Wow.
And I had Thanksgiving. I slept all day, and then I had Thanksgiving dinner with my mom and my father. And then the day after Thanksgiving, I had, as you can imagine, thousands of emails and 400 text messages and 100 voice messages, and there were a lot of them for the hospital. And so I went to the hospital the day after Thanksgiving, and then the doctor, the head of oncology at Stroger, said, yeah, you have stage 4. It's stage 4.
Oh.
And we have a very aggressive radiation treatment, and we're going to give you the strongest chemo the platinum-based chemo. It's going to take 6 hours every time you get chemo. It's a huge, literally, it was a bag that was like 6.5 feet long. And I'm sitting there processing all this. Well, not really processing this. I'm like, I'm kind of numb, as you can imagine. I'm just trying to think, what am I, it's like you're going to have to fight. You try not to react, which is what I've been teaching myself my whole life, is not to react, right? And then he says, okay, now I want you to go in the basement. Here's this piece of paper. You're going to go in the basement and they're going to take out all your teeth. They're going to extract all your teeth. And after they extract all your teeth, they're going to fit you for a radiation mask. And I had no idea what the fuck a radiation mask was. Do you?
No.
It's an Iron Maiden. So they take this Hollywood, it's cool. It looks like Spider-Man's web, and they pour it, or they like spray it over you. And then it hardens literally in 15 seconds. And it's funny because it just completely it goes, and I'll send you a picture.
Oh no, I know what that is. Yeah. It's like around the fruit. Like it looks like that.
It's
like pears,
like that, but it turns into hard plastic.
It turns into hard plastic.
It turns into like a net. Yeah, just like that. So what
okay.
they do is, when they zap you in a radiation chamber, they put you on this thing, and it's like a CT scan or a CT scan. You go in, and they zap you. It locks you down so you don't move like a millimeter.
Wow.
Like you can't. You literally, like, to inhale is like not enough clearance to even inhale. They gave me Xanax and Valium. And I insisted on being at North End, because the story was, I had, if it weren't for my friends, my best friends, and my family, I really think that was the biggest component, besides all the outpouring of love and support I got from strangers, which is the other thing.
Yeah.
When I was told that I had to have all this done, I was a zombie. I took the elevator downstairs. It was like out of a movie. It was like out of a horror movie. I'm in this rusty old elevator,
like a freight elevator,
kind of going down into the basement. I'm in the waiting room. There's dozens of people, and I'm sitting there waiting for 3 hours, and I'm just kind of staring like I'm going to get all my teeth taken out. Like, I can't believe all my teeth. And then you start thinking, and I thought, okay, I have scars all over my hands from knocking out people's teeth. And I thought, okay, I know exactly how many teeth I've knocked out in my lifetime, and I'm getting that exact
amount. Is this karma?
Yeah. And I'm thinking, and then I start to panic. I'm like, holy fuck! I can't believe I'm getting my teeth taken out. And so literally after 3-4 hours of waiting, God's honest truth, right hand to God, the dentist comes out, and he's in a
like an apron,
like a rubber apron,
a
with
rubber
blood all
apron.
over it. He's got gloves
like
on.
Like a butcher?
Yeah. And he comes on, he's splattered in blood. And he literally says, I'm sorry, no more appointments today. You're going to have to make appointments to come back. I walk up to the nurse. I'm like, the doctor gave me this note. I have to get it done today because they want to start treatment right away. She's like, your best shot is in a week and a half. I go, fine, I'll take it. She's like, go across this hallway to get your radiation mask fitted. I go across the hallway. I sit there for an hour and a half. And then doctor comes out and says, we can't take any more appointments today.
Wow.
So you're going to have to come back. And I said, well, I'm coming back in a week and a half. Can I come sooner, or at least on the same day? They're like, you can come sooner. So I walk out of the hospital of Stroger, and here's the weird thing. I lived on Ogden and Monroe in a loft, and Stroger was literally, a 5-minute walk.
Okay.
It's on Damon and Ogden.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm walking, and I'm like, okay, well, I've hid this giant, like
this whole time.
The whole time my parents didn't know that I told them that
Not
I had
even at Thanksgiving.
I wore a fleece and a turtleneck.
Oh, okay.
And when there was a little bandage, and when my mom saw it, moms know everything.
All right.
She's like, what is that on your neck? I'm like, oh, I had a cyst removed.
Oh. Okay.
Right? So, didn't tell my girlfriend at the time. I call my best friend Corinne, who's also in the restaurant business. She's a general manager with the Boca Group. And at the time, she had her own restaurant, and I called her and didn't realize that I was just, tears are pouring down my face, and I'm trying to verbalize and express what I'm feeling to her, and she's picking everything up, and she's like, Jace, Like you've got this. You're the strongest, most positive person I know. And she said, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to get you out of that hospital. You're going to not do that. You're going to get a second opinion. And she literally, put her own family, her husband and her 2 kids, and told them what was going on with Uncle Jason. And then she went to the hospital for the next 3 days and stood in line and filled out paperwork and got me a grant.
Oh, wow.
So that I was insolvent at the time. I didn't have a restaurant. I didn't have insurance. I was in between,
Yeah, I was gonna ask like why county, but I guess
Yeah.
that makes sense.
And then so she found funding so that to the tune of $300,000 would cover all my treatment, not my personal bills and my medication, but for the treatment. And then I talked to one of my best friends and said, who is the best cosmetic doctor or dentist, periodontist? And they said, oh, he's this guy. And he's literally on North Avenue and Sheffield. So I went to his office and I walked in and I immediately started crying because as soon as I walked in, I saw his face and he's just so kind. And, it's amazing when had he been a dick or just, I don't know, a person that wasn't so hospitable and caring and nice and like soulful, I would have probably been fine. But the fact that I saw someone and you see this light in them, right? I immediately was like, I have to get all my teeth taken out. And it's very emotional for me and it's very traumatic. And he sat there and he started to cry. And he goes, can I tell you something? And he's like, do you have stage 4 squamous cell carcinoma? I'm like, yeah.
Wow.
He's like, my wife got diagnosed with squamous cell carcinoma, stage 4, 4 weeks ago. So she's 4 weeks ahead of you. And she's at Northwestern. The number 1 guy in the nation for throat cancer is a guy named Skip Peltzer.
Huh.
And so I'm going to make a call to him and get an appointment for you.
Wow.
Right? Goosebumps.
Wow.
So then I go home, and that night, Corinne calls me and says, I found the number 1
Oh no! Did she find the same guy?
throat cancer doctor.
Same
He's at Northwestern,
No.
and his name's Skip Peltzer, and I got you an appointment. I go, this is fucking amazing. So I go to the appointment to meet Skip Peltzer, and he tells me everything they did at Cook County was correct. They took out the lymph nodes. They took out tonsils. You do have to get all your teeth removed. So he's like, shine that. You're going to get your treatment here. You're going to get your radiation done here. You're going to get your chemo done here. Putting you in touch with the head of oncology and the head of radiation. And every Monday they'll meet with you to discuss. They'll have a whole team of people to just discuss your case. And they'll schedule everything for you. And so I went the day after I went to Christmas Eve. I went out with my best friends, Eric Sawatowski and Steve Abrams, and all my best friends that I still surround myself with every birthday that sit at my table. Esther Garcia and Curtis Duffy and all my dear Colin Crowley, they're all my best friends, and Chris Gerber. We all went out to dinner. Then that was Christmas Eve. Christmas Day, my mom made king crab legs, my favorite. And then the day after Christmas, I had all my teeth extracted.
Wow.
And then, so then 2 weeks after that, I started radiation every morning at 7:30 in the morning at Northwestern. And then every Monday I had my chemo, and I went through treatment until March 7th. I had a real bad spell towards the end of treatment. I was hospitalized and unconscious for
From
7
what?
days.
Too much chemo? Or
You ready?
yeah.
From my first day of radiation treatment, they put a 5 milligram fentanyl patch on my shoulder.
Oh, so you OD'd on? Did you OD?
No.
Oh no.
It was
Sorry,
the
I keep
opposite.
jumping. You had too much pain.
It was the opposite. So they put it wasn't even a 5 milligram. I think it was a 1 milligram.
So not even enough.
And they said, we're gradually the patches are going to grow, and by the end of your treatment, you're going to be on 175 milligrams of fentanyl. And somewhere towards the middle, we're going to give you 2 bottles of morphine as your baseline. So every day you're going to have to orally They gave me a hypodermic needle, like a plunger without the needle.
Syringe, yeah.
And I would have to dose myself a few times a day and directly swallow the morphine. And then a bunch of rinses because I lost my salivary glands and my taste buds. And, the equivalent basically was liquid cocaine.
Yeah.
To numb the pain. And it's funny because like a idiot, when I said that I have a high pain threshold, I meant it. Like
so you didn't want to take
I never took anything synthetic. I never put anything synthetic. I smoked a lot of marijuana in my youth, but I never took aspirin. I didn't like cough syrup. I didn't like taking Advil or I didn't like anything synthetic, like fake. And I knew that I was being pumped full of platinum-based poison. It was killing me slowly on a cellular level from the inside out. So foolishly, and against my better judgment and the pleading of my girlfriend at the time, Myra Aguayo, I didn't take any of the medications. I didn't, put the patch on, and I wound up in cardiac arrest. Essentially, by the time I got to the hospital, yeah, because my body was managing all this pain. I was shaking, and I looked like a junkie, and I was like, couldn't sleep, and my hair was falling out in clumps. But I assumed it was from the radiation and the chemo, but it was all pain stress.
Wow.
So I went to the hospital. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And then Corinne took me to the hospital. And then I said, I just want to go home. They're like, no, we want to keep you. And I was like, absolutely not. I ripped everything off. And I was like, I'm out of here. I didn't sleep that whole night. The next day I was even worse. And I literally looked like a junkie. Like stuff was just pouring out of my face and my body. And I couldn't like stand still. It was convulsing. And when they went back to the hospital the next day, my heart rate was 160 miles.
You didn't go to the ER? You waited till the next day? Oh my God.
And they said, we don't understand with all this pain management meds you're on, you should be like, I never took. Whoopsie. I never. They're like, what? And they're like, this is insane. We've never seen this, and yada yada. And so I wound up unconscious in the hospital, hooked up to an IV with Dilaudid. And fentanyl up the ass,
wazoo, yeah.
And I was, I didn't realize, one of the greatest things to this day is when I realized how many people came to visit me when I was in the hospital and didn't have my wits about me, and it's, I live a life now that I feel like George Bailey from It's a Wonderful Life. Like I live a magnified life full of just gratitude, and I'm so blessed and lucky, and have so much love, and was given so much love blindly, that it changed my life and made me who I am today. And had my friends not behind my back started a GoFundMe page so I could pay my rent and the medications, I was, it was a couple $1,000s a week just for the meds. And then not being able to drive and, Ubers and all that. My girlfriend and my best friend saved my life. Literally. And what man can say that? What man can say that the love, but here's the craziest thing, the restaurant community, the biggest donations to my GoFundMe page were everybody in the restaurant. I had Anne-Marie Segoy. I had all these restaurateurs and people in the restaurant community offering to do fundraisers for me at their restaurants, at their bars. I was overcome and overwhelmed. And that's what really changed me into the person that I am now, that, tells myself on a daily basis that real courage is showing your heart and your vulnerability every single day as much as you can. So, what other medium can you use except social media? So I'm very transparent on social media. I try to keep it clean and not too crazy, but it's a lot of motivation, positivity, love.
It's transparency, because you're the same in person too.
I'd like to think so. I hope so. Like we're all just trying to be better versions of ourselves. And as you get older, there's a person that you want people to see. There's the person that you think people think you are. There's a person you think you are.
There's a person you think that
other
people think you are. Yeah.
When you get older, you're trying to make all four of those people the same. Just one person. Like, I'm just trying to be me. That's all I can be. I'm trying to be a good person. I was no angel. I had faults. I made mistakes. But the great thing about life is that it's never too late to try to be a better person, to try to like look at your flaws and mistakes and learn from them, and you know, use that as a fuel, use that as energy, good energy. And then again, to really try to, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to impact my life every day and other people's life every day based on what happened to me. Am I force feeding it to them? Absolutely not. Am I trying to be a beacon or a light or someone that people can say, hey, that's that guy. I don't want to be defined by any one thing, but if there's like, oh, hey, that's, you know, Jason the restaurateur, you know, he's someone that everybody loved working for, or we loved his restaurants, or hey, that's Jason the martial artist. He's a great martial artist and he's done a lot of great things in martial arts, or that's Jason the cancer survivor. Like, we can't believe he had that disease and he's doing all these things to try to, you know, be a light of hope and inspiration for people that are going through it or have gone through it.
What's something that you tell people if you were to work with someone right now? What would be a general theme that you would tell them, pass on to them? Someone that's going through stage cancer 4 right now. Yeah.
Well, oddly enough, there's a girl named Julie Perla that lives in the suburbs, and I met her. My best friend Pat White, who plays a crucial role in my life. I'll tell you why. Some of the greatest things I've done in my life, or some of the greatest times I've had in my life. Yeah. One was working at the Mercantile Exchange for 20 years.
Okay.
Not only did I make a really amazing livelihood, I had so much fun, and I met crucial people in my life, including the father of my godson, Ralph Davila, and all these amazing friends, and my old boss, John Fiandaca, who started my health page for me behind my back.
Okay.
And it always helps me out. But Pat White got me my job. But we were bouncers together.
Oh.
He, going back to the I Fight Dirty
right.
wheelhouse. In the 80s and 90s, I had always heard a story about this kickboxing bouncer who was crazy.
That's him?
Yeah.
Oh, no, man.
That he was legendary. And, you know, on that same side of the coin, he had heard rumblings in the story about this crazy Asian bouncer at Cairo who's knocking people out. And we both had this in our culture at the time, which was, you know, you think about it now, it's just so funny. It's like a bad Patrick Swayze movie, right? We'd heard about each other, and one night I got arrested. I got put in jail I was working at a bar.
While bouncing?
Yeah.
Oh.
And the guy filed a complaint. I filed a counter, but I had to go get processed in jail. And then the I bonded me out. And I'm like, well, I got the night off. I'm going to go to Neo, where he's a bouncer, and I'm going to go like just hang out there and see if I can meet this guy. And I'm walking down if you know anything about Neo, I'm walking down the alley and I start laughing because at the end of the alley, I already see who are not only my Shidokan brothers now, but also bouncers that we worked together later in life. Bo Medenica, Pat White, and Ralphie Linares. And, Bo immediately walks inside, and it's just Ralphie and Pat. And I see this guy that looks like, if you looked in the late 80s in the dictionary for yuppie, that's, he had the blue sport coat, khaki pants.
Okay.
Penny loafers.
Oh,
right?
God, yeah.
Plaid shirt. Maybe even an ascot, like a real douchebag. And he squares off with Pat, and he's like in this like karate or taekwondo stance. And Pat like looks at Ralphie, and they're leaning against their motorcycle because they had their motorcycles parked. He put his helmet on.
Of course they did, huh?
He put his helmet on, and I see him like mimic the guy doing the stance, and then I see him proceed to just decimate this kid, right? And then he takes off the helmet and puts it back on his motorcycle, and he's like that, And so I never introduced myself. I, paid the cover, and then I walked inside, had a few drinks, came back out and went home. And then, months later I meet him. I hire him at Drink at the time where I had, a security staff, and I hired everybody that worked at Neo and Kaboom and everywhere else. And we became friends, like really close friends. He taught me a lot because I eventually joined the Shidokan gym because at that time I was taking Hapkido and Kung Fu.
Oh.
I was studying Shaolin Kung Fu on Belmont and Ashland.
Oh, badass.
Coincidentally, across the street from the dojo that CFC is at right now.
Oh, really?
I went to high school with Kenny Tai and his father, Grandmaster Tai, owned a bunch of Shaolin temples, and I was studying Kung Fu with them for many years.
Huh.
They both unfortunately passed away in the last, 7-8 years. And so he got me the job, and then I joined the gym, the dojo, and he was. People always ask me, "Who's your favorite fighter?" And number one is Pat White. Number two is Mike Tyson.
Wow, really?
Yeah, because he was a marvel physically and mentally to behold. He was the Oakbrook version of Mike Tyson, if you ask me.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. And so we became really great friends, and he did one of the best things that, that's what friends do. Like, I got him a job bouncing, making lots of cash, and he got me a job at the Merc, and I was there for 20 years and became an integral part of my life, and he became an integral part of my life. And then it was odd because his sister got cancer before, got breast cancer before I did. And so when I told him I had gotten cancer, he said, I said, what did your sister do? He's like, all I know is she didn't curl up in a ball and focus on not feeling good in the treatment. Like, she got her laptop and she worked. And so I kind of took his word to heart. And literally the whole time I was going through treatment, I would leave the hospital at 8 a.m. I wouldn't go home and curl up on the ball and go to sleep. I would actually go to my restaurant, Juno, which was being built out and demoed and everything. And I would go there for a few hours every day and show my best friend Edgar how I wanted things painted and how I wanted, he was kind of the GC, directing the contractors and everybody there for me while I was going through my treatment. Then I would go home and I would get a massage. I'd go see my best friend now, Jonathan Makoff, who's, he does muscle therapy, chiropractor, energy work. He's so much more than a holistic healer. He's an intuitive holistic healer, and he would treat me. He later on donated 50% of all his earnings in a month to my health fund.
With what specifically? Cupping, acupuncture,
all that he does. Well, no, I went to my cousin for acupuncture. I went to Jonathan to get energy work and chiropractic sessions. I went to an Ayurvedic clinic and got Ayurvedic oil treatments to help bleed out radiation and inflammation in my body. I got a massage twice a day, in the morning and at night. All that was very, very expensive. I went to the Colonic Institute and got colonics because I was only drinking 1 can of Ensure a day. Wow. And then it would take 4 days to pass it.
Because you can't stomach it.
Well, what
no
happens
appetite
when you're on that strong with chemo, it kills all your fast-moving cells, and so I was always constipated. It would go in as 1 can of Ensure, but it would come out like a lump of clay.
Yeah.
To be kind of too much information.
No, it's all good.
But then at the Colonic Institute, they really taught me a lot about nutrition and, juicing and things you could do. So you wouldn't have to take the Ensure because it was too hard to pass. I had a titanium chemo port put in, and so I was also getting my IVs and fluids through that.
Through that, a portacaf,
delivered to the house. So it's it was really bad. But getting back to Pat, he now runs. He's a tremendous athlete. He was an Ironman. Oh. He was a marathon runner and cyclist and triathlete. Yeah. And now he has his own human performance and Muay Thai boxing gym in St. Charles. And me and my best friends and students would always go out there since he opened his facility. And one of the people I met there was this one of his students, Julie Perilla, and he put me in contact with her just a week ago. And I'm talking to her, and there's really nothing like I'm sorry it got so long-winded.
No, you're
But
good.
the answer to your question is that what do I say? I tell them what worked for me. And what works for me was being open to a lot of love from strangers, because I really firmly believe that everything is energy. It's science. It's not a myth or a new wave
Mm.
ideology of thinking.
Buzzword, yeah.
Or holistic. Like, holistic is a thing. Like, the greatest thing that could happen was that Pat told me not to curl up in the ball and die, and what worked for his sister, managing the treatment. And Jeremiah Johnson telling me from day one, like, this is dead ass serious. This is your life. Sell everything and do everything that makes you feel good. If you want to get a massage, get a massage. If you want to get acupuncture, like, you have to do the Western treatment, which is radiation and chemo. So I immediately did everything that was holistic and Eastern, everything. And then when I was cleared from the doctor after I finished my treatment, which was about 2.5 months after, I went to an integrative therapist and got vitamin C IVs every week to help rebuild. Vitamin C is really beneficial on a cellular level for your body after going through such like radiation and chemo, poison. And then he started a whole holistic program on how to repair my throat. Like, everything disintegrated where I was radiated. Literally everything. I had real bad radiation burn. I had canker sores. My whole mouth. Like, I took a picture and I since erased it. I can handle all the pictures I took of myself.
Yeah, that's brutal.
The one thing I deleted was a picture of me when I opened my mouth, and my whole lip, both my lips were white canker sores, and everything inside was, and then the roof of my mouth, the soft palate, disintegrated.
Wow.
So I would put my tongue on the roof of my mouth, and there was nothing there.
Oh my God.
It was really bad.
Yeah.
And so what I tell everybody is do everything that makes you feel good. If listening to, and what I did is I watched nothing but funny movies. I didn't watch the news. I didn't go on the internet. I watched comedies every day. Pat White came over and watched Shameless with me. Esther Garcia came over and we watched, Planet Earth and things like that. John Castle came over and we watched, really quirky, bizarre movies. But I tried to always keep everything and surround myself with positivity. Everything I absorbed through my eyes, all my senses, was positivity.
Yeah.
I didn't let my mom come see me once. She would meet me my mom and dad would meet me at 7:00 in the basement where they do the radiation. And that was it. Because I didn't want to expose that, like, you have an Asian mom.
Yeah.
And as tough and as strong as they are, when any mother, when their child gets sick, they get sicker. My mom's not a religious woman. She's a Buddhist too, but she went to Holy Name Cathedral every night and prayed.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're their world.
Yeah. So when my mom said, I want to move in with you and take care of you, I said, absolutely not. I don't want to expose you to that. Plus, it would make me feel bad. It would make me feel worse knowing to see my mom, the way my mom would look at me, knowing that
she'd be that much more worried.
Yeah. And so, my lifeline and the rock and the amazing component throughout the whole thing was my girlfriend, my living girlfriend at the time. Our relationship went to another level when I told her I had cancer, and she literally was a nurse and an angel and a psychiatrist, and her life and her health was greatly affected by, cancer affects everybody around you, and that's the worst thing, is you don't have control over yourself or anybody around you when you get cancer, and that's the most daunting part, is that you lose control. She couldn't sleep. She was just always stressed out and just so giving. She gave 150% of her soul and her heart and her love to me for such a long time. And, and since then, now we're great friends. We're best friends.
Yeah.
Corinne, Pat, all the people who are there for me when I was at my lowest are here with me at my highest. The value that they have is, I wouldn't be able to express it. I wouldn't be able to fill enough oceans with what I feel for the people, and those people all saved my life. And then there's the hard task of all the people that donated to my GoFundMe page and all the people the thousands of people that posted stuff on Facebook and Instagram, like, hang in there. We love you. We don't even know you, but, we're wishing you a speedy recovery. And, I sent you $10.
Yeah.
That all added up. I had almost $40,000 to help pay my rent and my bills and my car payment and all that stuff. And the groceries, because, living a holistic life is not cheap.
What would you say to someone who wasn't as fortunate? Is there anything to say?
Yeah. I've thought about that so many times because I had resources available to me that weren't normally available to anyone. I was insolvent. I was in a bad place financially. But was I at a poverty level that a lot of people are? I had to experience that level when I was at Stroger.
Right.
And had it not been for Corinne, my best friend in the whole world, who, put her own life
Took you by the
family
hand and went to
on
Northwestern
hold to get me, the grant.
Right.
Here's what I would say. The only thing you really, really ever have in life is hope. Whether you're rich, poor, in a good situation or bad situation, had I had to stay at Stroger and go through all the treatment, everything that I went to, would it has been as savory and comfortable as it was at Northwestern? Probably not. The only thing I can say in regards to that is that you can't give up hope. You have to. That's the thing about martial arts, and going back to the question earlier, is that, had it not been for martial arts, particularly Shidokan, and working out every day, sometimes twice a day, my body completely in a constant stasis where I was always healing. Like I was sore every day, and then I was always healing. If I wasn't lifting weights or doing resistance training or doing core training or just plain doing, the cardio involved in martial arts,
Right.
and the sparring and the pad work and all that, it all prepared you mentally. I thought I was preparing myself for coronavirus, pandemic apocalypse, or maybe I'd have to defend my girlfriend or wife or mom on the street against multiple attackers. I never thought in a million years that I would be training so hard, really, to be emotionally prepared for a fight with my own self. It wasn't with cancer. I touched on it earlier. The amount of energy that took to be positive, it's easy to be negative. It's easy to say, fuck it. This is cancer. I'm going to just lay here and curl up in a ball and sleep and deal with it. Like, kind of what's going on right now. Like, you want to just lock yourself in your apartment and wait for it to blow over? Or do you want to fight? And for me, whether I'm a good fighter in the ring, which I'm not, I'm the guns of fucking Navarone. I'm Mike Tyson on fucking steroids when I'm on the street. I have no doubts or all the confidence in the world. If you put me in front of anyone on the street or more than one person on the street, I will prevail. Especially if I'm defending myself or something. I'll never start a fight. In the ring, that's all. It's all relative. It's all subjective. Like there's plenty people that a lot of my students, Curtis, a lot of people are surpassed me in my skill level, whether I'm black belt or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the greatest thing about martial arts is it's a lifetime journey to just constantly practice and try to be perfect so that you settle for excellent. And I never knew in a million years that all of that training would really just strengthen my resolve emotionally, mentally, and my soul to be a strong person, to really know my own strength inside and tell myself, and I told Julie this, and I've told several people this that I've either mentored or come in contact with that have contracted and gotten cancer, that it's more important to be strong than to feel strong. I never felt strong. I didn't have a choice. What was I going to do? Not be strong? Or say, fuck it. I got cancer and there's X percentage that I'm not going to make it and die. I never felt strong, but I had to be strong. I had to be strong for my mom, who I knew was crying probably 2/3 of the day when I wasn't there. I had to be strong for all my friends. I had to be strong for, my girlfriend, who was like literally putting her life on hold, every aspect of her life, her family, her friends, her own life, to like help me become better. Strangers that didn't even know me. So, martial arts became such a big part of my life, and me being able to tell people, hey, you're human. You can't always feel strong. You'll never feel strong going through this battle, but you have to be strong. And that's easy to do, because then what I found myself doing bleeds into the present day, which was scouring. We live in an age where you can go on the internet and find anything. And I do it every day. I look for things on the internet besides like bulldog puppies and other stuff that I love looking at. I'm always scouring the internet for things that are inspirational, motivational, TED Talks, and people who have like gone through the worst struggles and adversities in life and come out on the other side, not only surviving it, but thriving it, and, making an impact because of what they learned, and trying to not profit from it financially, but emotionally and universally, saying, wow, I really feel good about myself that I can give back in this particular way and profit from it and have that emotional currency bank account full to the brim. My emotional bank book, I'm the richest man in Chicago. I have the greatest friends. They're family. I made them my family.
Very common phrase I hear from you is best friend. You have a lot of best friends.
Literally, what do your parents tell you, and what do all the cliches and my parents tell me? If you go through life with maybe one best friend, you're the luckiest guy in the world. And all my best friends it's amazing. Esther Garcia is one of my best friends. She did all my tattoos. On a weekly basis, I get bombarded with emails and inbox messages like, I just want to get a tattoo from her. Can you put in a good word? There's like a 3-month waiting list. I'm like, I don't have that relationship with her. She's like my best friend, and I don't ever do that.
Yeah.
Curtis Stuffy.
Right.
You know how many people
inbox
message me, text message me, email me like, you're friends with him, you're trained with him. Can you ask him this? Can you ask him that? Will he do this? I'm like, that's my best friend for a reason. I don't do that.
Yeah.
Eric Sawatowski, who's by far my most prominent friend on social media. His son's my godson. I love him. He is like a brother to me. Chris Gerber, Ralph Davila. I'm Paul Davidson, who lives in New York.
It's not only crazy to have that many best friends, but that many best friends that are thriving at life.
They're all thriving in life.
They're all thriving
in life.
Insane.
Yeah. And they're all super talented and creative, except for Paul. Paul in New York is, he's very like logical and non-emotional, but he really champions life and knows how to live life to the fullest. He's one of the smartest men I know. My mentor, who, we could do a whole episode on my mentor, George Millman, brought sushi to California in the late 60s, was an entertainment lawyer, produced the play and the movie Hair, introduced me to Timothy Leary and was Timothy Leary's best friend and attorney. He managed Roxy. He was the CEO of Mattel Toys. He taught me everything about hot cuisine.
How did your paths cross? Was that...
So when I was running security and for whatever it was worth at the time, for the equity and reputation I cultivated, being this guy that you wanted to hire if you needed a bouncer or you needed someone to do security. An 18-year-old kid by the name of Chris Millman, who later became my best friend. approached me in high school. I was, a young adult. I was in my mid-20s, and he asked me to provide security for a loft party. He was going to charge, it was like a kegger, and he was going to charge $20 per person. I'm tearing up right now because he played such an influential part in my life. And listen to this story. He asked me to provide security, and I said, sure, it'd be $1,000. He said, fine, I'll meet you tomorrow. I'd like to meet the whole crew. And I showed up the next day. He gave me $1,000, and it was me and my friend Travis. And he goes, it's just you two? And I go, that's all you're going to need. I go, trust me, it's a bunch of high school kids. That's all you're going to need. And, Travis was 6'1" and about 300 pounds. And we became great friends. And we smoked a joint. And maybe a year, I was also working in a kitchen. He was an amazing cook and wanted to go to chef school. And we were thick as thieves and joined at the hip, and we're always hanging out together. And his father, George, one day approached me.
George or Greg?
George Millman.
George? Okay, it's George Millman. Okay.
I was living in a studio. I had gotten an apprenticeship with a financial firm and a commodities firm to be an account executive, basically to sell commodities over the phone.
Okay.
It's all 100% commission. And I was making, I was living off of bouncing and let's just say, how do I say it? I was in the collections business for a while. And he's, Chris and I would get together, smoke pot, and do these lavish dinners where we would raid his father's cellar, and we'd cook these extravagant meals for our friends, and we'd pair everything with wine, and dream about opening our own restaurant one day. And we became close friends. And his father approached me one day and said, he taught me one of the first things about positivity and energy and success in life. And he said, positivity attracts positivity. Negativity attracts negativity. He's like, you're a great positive influence on my son. I see how different he is, and you're very active and healthy, and you're always positive, and you're working 3 different jobs, and you're struggling. He's like, why don't you move in with me? And I scratched my head. I'm like, what do you mean move in? He's like, I want you to move in. So in 1985, 86, he was living in a corporate loft apartment next to St. Michael's Church that was $12,000 a month. So you can imagine what kind of crib it was back in 1985.
Right.
And he was setting up Oak Brook Polo Club and all the real estate land deals for Michael Butler in Oak Brook.
Oh, wow.
Like this, he's my mentor for a reason. He's a grand poobah. He's a badass motherfucker.
Yeah.
And so I said, yeah, absolutely. So I lived with him. Then they moved. They moved back to California, where they're from. And, my best friend Chris at the time grew up going to school with Tom Petty's son. And, like this whole different culture. So my very first experience in California was visiting them. And it was a birthday party held for George at Timothy Leary's house. And I'm sitting there smoking pot with Grace Jones.
Oh, my God.
And Taylor Negron, the pizza guy from Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Really?
And then in the garage is the editor of Time, Newsweek.
What?
People from NASA. Timothy Leary's son became an innovator in the video game industry when that whole thing was just a seed. Went to the premiere of the Doors movie with Oliver Stone and Timothy Leary at the Hollywood Bowl. Shit like that, right? Like, who does that?
Whoa.
So he introduced me to a whole culture that was unbelievable. And people wouldn't believe it when I told them, right? So my best friend Chris, we obviously lived in different cities.
Yeah.
And he became John Travolta's personal chef.
Oh, shit.
So he lived with him and Kelly in their home in Florida and their home in California. And on their 747, he was for 6 years their personal chef. And then he passed away.
No way.
Yeah. When I opened Sushi Samba as a consultant in 2004, Gary Sinise and Jordan Mosier came in to dinner, and I became very friends with both of them because of George. And I said, hey, how's Chris doing? And how's George doing? I haven't talked to George in a while. And he's like, you should call him. You know, Chris passed away. And I went outside and I cried.
What?
And then, you know, ever since 2004, I've gone out as much as I can to, you know, visit George and have dinner with him. And he connected me with, you know, you pay it forward. He introduced me to his best friend's granddaughter, who's I mentored, and she lived with me in Chicago. And now she is literally the next big deal when it comes to pastry. She's the pastry sous at Bouchon, in Napa Valley. She was the pastry sous at Spago. She ran the pastry catering and everything in his catering kitchen when she was fucking 20 years old. Huh. She is literally a prodigy. She is literally a savant when it comes to pastry, and she's an amazing human being. I love her dearly. She's next level, and she's the future of, I think, where this industry is going to go. And oddly enough, it's really rooted in classic, traditional.
Back to bay. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
Cuisine. But, you know, my mentor is a big, huge part of my life, and changed a lot of aspects of who I am and how I am now. And I'm just trying to emulate. You know, I try to be a living tribute to everything that he's taught me. And, you know, it's so funny because, you know, they say never meet your heroes, right? And I met him, and he was my hero. So it's not like, you know, he became my hero from meeting him because I said, this is, you know, he had the only Range Rover in Chicago. Back in that, there was no Range Rovers in Chicago at that time.
Yeah, you weren't actively seeking out a mentor.
No, I wasn't. And he just, the first time I had foie gras, the first time I ate sweetbreads, the first time I had a degustation menu, tasting menu, the first time I drank really amazing cognac and port and, you know, peaky toe crab. And, you know, the first time I ate real authentic Vietnamese food was with him, and we'd go on these food adventures together, and he taught me so much about the restaurant business in general, but how to be the human being that he had became, how he evolved. And evolution is a big thing. So him and Timothy Leary co-authored lots of books about evolution and the evolutionary rate and how, as a living organism on this planet, you evolve.
Timothy Leary with the psychedelics?
Yeah.
Badass.
My first time, I loved
acid.
Well,
you did it with him?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's, you know, you couldn't talk about it before because everything was so just taboo and illegal, and now marijuana is legal, but I loved acid. Acid was exactly what it was. It's mind expanding. You know, you abuse anything, it can be a bad thing.
Right.
If I would have just smoked one cigarette here and there, who knows if I would have gotten throat cancer. But I smoked 2-3 packs a day because I love smoking.
Yeah.
And you do anything that's bad for you that much, it's going to hurt you back.
Do you think civilization could benefit from one hit of acid?
Here's what I think. I think right after high school, everybody has to work in a restaurant for 1 year.
Oh, okay.
And in that time, they also have to do copious amounts of acid.
Yeah. Copious?
Yeah. And here's why. Humility. The sense of entitlement that permeates kind of our culture right now, but more importantly, the instant gratification and the lack of a gray area in everything in this world, because everything is one extreme or the other.
Yeah,
we live in an extreme world where you can get literally anything that you want. But then you're left with the feeling of, well, do I want it now that I've got it? There's that, and then everything's black or white, left or right, Democrat, Republican, good, bad, rich, poor, happy, sad.
Right.
You know, the thing about acid as I know it and the way I was taught by the person.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And so what, did it show you all the colors between black and white?
Here's what it did. It opened up the doors of perception, which is what like books have been, Aldous Huxley.
Right.
And the way, you know, everything was the precursor to it. So what I learned about LSD before I took it, and the fact that LSD I took for the very first time was made by Timothy Leary and Jerry Garcia's chemist. And this is common knowledge. Everybody I worked with in the clubs back then all did acid with
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
All the other bartenders and people I worked with, because they knew I had the greatest LSD on the planet. You know, I never abused it. I would savor it. I would hold it for times. Watermarks in my life, just like tattoos, are kind of the same thing, like how I used acid at the time. Was like whenever there was a time where I knew there was, you know, chaos usually precedes an amazing change. So I think all this chaos we're going through,
Yeah.
it precedes something amazing that's going to happen. I really believe that. And the same thing with me emotionally, physically, whenever I was going through a time that I think, wow, I feel like myself, like I got to grow a new shell or evolve or change. I used it as like almost like a clinical aspect. I used it to help me gain insight
yeah.
into something I normally wouldn't see, open my eyes, or have a different perspective on something. I never used it to like,
As a
well, I
party
did
drug.
a couple
I
of times.
mean-
I took 4-way window pane acid and went to the music box with my girlfriend, and we watched the Japanese animation festival for 12 hours.
Oh, that's insane.
But that was fun. But 9/10 of the time,
It's medicinal.
it was
You respect it.
it was like what I guess what people that do ayahuasca now
Yeah.
are kind of
Seeking.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So I always used it to my benefit to grow somehow, mentally or emotionally or even physically.
Right.
You know, for me, it was a drug I never wanted to abuse because, you know, when you learn about something before you do it, like I'll give you an example. I never drank alcohol until I was 35.
Oh.
My parents were in the restaurant business. I saw drunk people all the time. When you see all that nonsense and silliness and drunkenness and bad behavior, by the time I got to high school and
Right.
you know 8th grade, when people were like sneaking beers to get at
It's not a
parties,
big deal
I'm like,
anymore.
"Oh, I don't want to have a fucking drink. I don't want to be a jackass, right? So the more I learned about LSD, the more I realized that hey, you know, Timothy Leary, in a lot of his books, flashbacks, a lot of things, like the only cure for depression is LSD. Literally the only clinical, done in the right environment with the right clinical assistance, the only cure for alcoholism he proved was LSD. And how about rehabilitation?
Yeah.
He did an experiment in Folsom Prison, which was the worst prison at the time in the
Yeah.
late 60s. And every single convict that was, you know, felony class X or class 1 was a repeat offender. Up to like 85% of them were repeat offenders. After he took a control group of 24 people, you know, did the clinical treatment with LSD and rehab and therapy, to this day, not one single of those patients ever was returned back into the penal system.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Did you ever meet Jerry Garcia?
Never.
Oh, never?
I was never
Deadhead? You're
never
not a deadhead?
Never I was, you know, I'm from a different time, literally.
Sure.
I'm not that old.
Yeah.
But for me, you have to understand, for me, the culminating point was freshman year of high school, because before freshman year, everything was pot, acid, like Pink Floyd,
Yeah.
Blue Oyster Cult, Black Sabbath, all the bands that I loved. And then in 1 year, it's Miami Vice, cocaine, MTV comes on,
Oh.
Eurythmics, New Order, Depeche Mode.
Yeah.
Everything goes from jeans and earth shoes and concert T-shirts to polos with the pop collars,
Right.
all the
No
pastel
more
colors.
Yeah.
Not wearing socks with boat shoes and right.
Okay.
And the whole culture
It's
changed.
interesting, yeah.
And then music changed, pop culture changed. You know, everything was cocaine and Miami Vice.
Yeah. It's making a comeback. There's a lot of newer
Everything
new
makes a
kids
comeback.
going to dead cover shows and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. Interesting to see that.
You know what I'm waiting to come back? Calling girls on the phone
Instead
before
of
you meet them,
Yeah.
before you go on a first date, like for weeks maybe. Like, I hate texting. I do it because everybody texts. Millennials, they only text. They don't do email. Everybody my age now, my mom texts me now. It took this, like my mom didn't start texting me until literally a year ago.
Okay.
I don't hate texting. I like hearing a person's voice. I like the anticipation and the anxiety and the nervousness you have of like the crack in your voice when you're talking. Like you want that vulnerability, you want that energy to come through.
You're not hiding behind a screen.
You can say anything. You can just send a dick pic to someone.
Right,
There's
right.
no
FaceTime. We got FaceTime. So
there's
why
no
not
remorse.
FaceTime?
There's no humility. There's no repercussion. There's no anything. It's just, how about this? How about a response to your text is them liking it?
Right.
Like that's not a fucking response.
Interesting.
So I'm hoping there's a return. Like everything's cyclical and whatever's old is new again. And I'm hoping that telephones actually make a comeback. Like not knowing who's on the phone before you pick it up.
What are your thoughts on FaceTime?
FaceTime's great if you have children and you're away. FaceTime's great if you're on. I was in LA for 6 months, and I got home very late, and so I just started dating my ex-girlfriend Jasmine, and for me to be able to FaceTime her occasionally was great because I could see my dog.
Yeah.
She was staying. We were living together. She was at my house. So I got to see my apartment and see her with my dog in my apartment, and it was great. And I think FaceTime is great, but what's left to the imagination? So my point is that when you're on the telephone with someone, like we need that. We need a return. Like if anything that's going to benefit from this quarantine, I hope, is the social distancing. Like the fact that now, now maybe people will call each other. Now maybe people will write each other. Now maybe people will like engage on a different level so that when they do see each other, they're going to start back from square one. Like I saw someone I went grocery shopping for my parents today because I'm worried about them going out grocery.
Right.
I'm not worried for myself. I'll lick doorknobs and go out all day long. I have no fear when it comes to the coronavirus. I fear for my mom and dad.
Right.
So I went and bought them groceries, and I ran into my friend Julie at Mariano's, and we sat there and talked to each other for literally like 20 minutes.
Were you waiting in line?
No,
you were
at the entrance of Mariano's. Like
okay.
I just walked in. I was walking out. She just walked in, and like I smiled the rest of the day because I'm like, the only time I've seen her, literally, she used to watch my dog that passed away. She took care of my dog when I would go out of town, and my dog passed away a year and a half ago. So I literally have only seen her, and I was telling her that I was like, I love all your little clips and stories that you put on social media, but I was like, holy shit! Like it took
running into you.
It took running into you to make me realize, like, wow, it's an amazing thing to like connect us for. I didn't care. She didn't care if I had corona. Like we didn't elbow bump. Like we hugged each other.
Right.
And I was like, I love you. It's great to see you, and look in her eyes, and you to see that. Here's the thing. The reason I love what I do in both aspects is the human contact, the exchange of energy, even being near it,
Yeah.
And the other two parts that I want to just touch on briefly, because I know we got to wrap this up, is cheeseburgers. They're an integral part of my life.
Yeah.
And fucking tequila.
Have you ever had a cheeseburger that wronged you?
I'll be honest with you. I think cheeseburgers are like pizza and sucks. Even when it's bad, it's still pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
I never met a cheeseburger I didn't like. I've had bad cheeseburgers before, but you're like, really? It's still a cheeseburger.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we both know my favorite cheeseburger is Chef Mike from Cafe Marie-Jean. He only does it on Thursdays. He makes it everything from scratch, and it's spectacular. I've said it, and I always joke, and I post it frequently, and I think like depression was a scam that he invented. As a chef, he invented depression so that he could sell more cheeseburgers, because you could have the worst day in the world. You bite into that cheeseburger. And
man.
It's like, the cherubs come down, the sky opens up.
Right.
Light shines on that cheeseburger from God, and it's just my favorite cheeseburger. Second is probably the Loyalist, which you're a fan of.
Yeah.
I love Rootstock's cheeseburger. I love Scofflaw's cheeseburger. And
I think I would put Scofflaw above Loyalist.
Because of the price point.
price point, but it was like I liked it a little, and I like the fries and everything. But Loyal is closer to here, so that's why it's just like a little more convenient.
Yeah, I'm a huge cheeseburger fan. I eat cheeseburgers 3-4 days a week.
Damn.
When I was in my 20s and 30s, I worked out a lot so I could look good naked.
Yeah.
Now I work out a lot so I can eat 3-4 cheeseburgers a week. And the greatest thing about, everybody says it's kind of hard to fuck up cheeseburgers. I think cheeseburgers are kind of the equivalent of the mainstream or American menu item. That's right. It's the same as sushi, meaning sushi is the most simplest thing. It's fish and rice. It's so simple. Like they say, how can you fuck up a cup of coffee? How can you fuck up a cheeseburger? Well, that's true because it's so simple. It's the bun and it's a beef patty and a slice of cheese. But there's a lot going on there. It's very complex and it has to be the right balance. And everybody has, I like this bun, I like that bun. But for me, if you bite into that sucker and there's a pool of blood and grease dripping down your arm or on the plate, that's your first sign that you're in the right place. I don't like chewy buns. I'm not a huge fan of potato buns. I like more brioche, toasted.
Okay.
Cheeseburgers. American cheese is always the way to go. Millennials don't like it, but they can go suck it.
What do they like? What do they like? What do they put on?
I don't know what they like. Who knows and who even cares?
Oh man.
And then tequila.
Tequila.
Yes.
With I want to touch on what chefs and restaurants are striving for as far as awards. Is that like a valid thing to strive for? Is that something like that should be on someone's priority list?
Here's the thing. I can't speak for everyone, but personally, I know that that if you put in the work and you strive to be the best, just put your passion into making a consistent quality product and consistent quality service. Really, like that's what all chefs and restaurateurs are concerned about. Like I just want to have my food speak for me, my voice, my message through my food, and have it, and hopefully have everybody love it, right?
Yeah.
And love the quality of it, the consistency of it, more importantly, because it has to be consistent, because that's what shows everybody that you're a professional and you know what you're doing.
Right.
It's always consistent. If they come in one time and it's this good, it's always going to be this good. I think the awards are exactly what it is. If you're really a passionate person about what you do, it's just an award to kind of pat you on the back and say, hey, yeah, you're right. All the hard work you did to make sure that this was consistent and done right, even when you're not there, but especially when you're there all the time, then the award is just that. It's an acknowledgement. The ones, and I think they're the ones that are on the younger side or maybe a little insecure, need the award first. Need to know that, I'm...
The validation.
If you're going to open up a restaurant and your main goal is to win an award,
you're not going to last.
No, your main goal should be to make the guest happy, your staff happy.
Yeah. And so...
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I think awards...
Chef Otto said the same thing.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he said the same thing. He said, he kind of put it more bluntly. He straight up said, I don't care.
Well, everybody has to understand something about Chef Otto, and I'm going to speak on this because he's a friend now.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you the story of Chef. I couldn't stand him. I thought he was a pompous asshole. 3 months before he opened the restaurant, Eater did a little blurb, and he was a dickhole. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? He was like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Chicago doesn't even have any good sushi. And then 3 weeks before he opened, and I told myself then, I'm never going to support this guy. He's not from Chicago. And not that I automatically not support people from Chicago, but people like that are from Chicago.
Right.
And then 3 weeks before he opened, someone did a small article on, one of the first 3 omakase bars, sushi restaurants are going to open. Chef Otto's from Austin. And here's his statement, and they quote him saying, like, now that I've been here for 3 months, I've eaten at a lot of sushi places. Nobody knows what they're doing. We have access to an international airport and can get, like, nobody even has good fish. Nobody even knows what good sushi is on the guest side. Like, he was calling out
Right.
guests that they didn't even know what good sushi was anyway. So I'm like, this guy's a fucking asshole. I'm not going to support him. And it was funny. I didn't even care to track his success or when he opened. I'm like, I don't even care what happens to that guy. 3 months later, one of my really good friends said, hey, I trust your judgment. I've gone to all your restaurants. I love your opinion and value it. And I know you don't probably, like the rest of the city, have a really good perception or taste in your mouth about Chef Otto, but I bought the place out on Sunday. He's closed on Sundays, and I bought the place out, and I want you to come as my guest, and I want you to give me your honest opinion.
No shit.
Because I think it's really great. And I said, no, absolutely not. And he said, okay, I understand. Then he called me he texted me the next day, and he's like, look, I invited your best friend Eric. And will you go? And I want you to be open-minded, and I want you to like not hold a grudge. And I'm like, he's like, will you do it for me? And I go, well, now that you put it that way, absolutely. And now I have someone to sit next to, to talk shit to about Otto. So we go, and I sit there, and the first thing is, I realized that he's nothing like what I had perceived.
Interesting.
Because he's quiet. He's not saying anything. He said maybe one or two things about the rice, which impressed me because the rice, sushi, not many people realize this, but like sushi literally means sour rice. So the most important component of sushi is the rice, not the fish.
Interesting.
Although you have to have amazing fish,
Right.
the rice is the most important part. And so the only thing he said was, I make this rice in small batches. There's 8 people here right now. I just make enough for 8 people. I don't make it in large batches, and it sits there and it cools off like it's body temperature. It's like risotto size pearls
nice.
of rice,
Yeah.
and all sushi rice. 9/10 of it comes from California, right?
Okay.
This is a hybrid heirloom strain of rice from Japan, and only 2 restaurants in the United States, well, in the world, carry it. One's a 3 Michelin star restaurant in Japan.
Oh, Japan. Okay.
And one's
Damn.
Kyoto.
Badass.
So right away, as soon as I took the first bite, I go to Eric. I go, this fucking rice is amazing. And Eric's just like that. He's like he loves sushi. And I think on the third bite, I think Chef kind of read my reaction to it. He's like, and he was very soft-spoken and very humble when he said his first words to me. He's like, I know who you are. Pat told me he was inviting you, and I really appreciate you coming, to experience my omakase, and I, value your opinion, and, please tell me if you want more wasabi or less wasabi. He tells everybody that.
Right.
I just thought it was great that he finally engaged with his guests and with me. And then I'll be honest, halfway through it, I think it was like, 15, 16 bites. I think right around the 10th bite, my best friend Eric was like, and Pat, my friend, was sitting there like this, and he's like,
yeah, right.
He's like, what I tell you, and I'm holding and reserving my opinion and my reaction and my expressions and everything, and I whisper into Eric's ear, I'm like, holy fuck, this is good sushi. And he's like, I think it's great. I'm like, this might be the best sushi in the city. And by the end of the meal, like it was the last bite that he put up there, and he's like, I'll be in the gallery to receive you guys before you leave, and take photos and if you want and whatnot. And I waited till I went out there last. I waited till everybody shook his hand and took pictures and everything. I was like, look, I looked him in the eye, shook his hand. I was like, this is the best sushi I've had in Chicago. I think it's the best sushi right now. And a lot of people in the industry who write about food or involved in food, ask me my opinion a lot of times on what is great sushi and where I would go. And I told a lot of influential, preeminent people about it, and they wrote about it, and they talked about it, and they sent people there. And I did what I would do for anybody, not only because they're in the same industry as me, but to support, and I genuinely felt
Good work.
that strongly
Yeah.
about it, that this is a place I love to go for sushi. And I went back 2 or 3 times with Eric and Pat, and then, everybody knows that, I have an ex-partner who had a sushi restaurant with me, and he opened his own omakase, and he got a Michelin star, and I was very happy for him because, I wouldn't have, before we partnered, I genuinely, we were friends, and I genuinely thought, not just because he's Korean, he was one of the best sushi chefs in the city. And his sushi was great because he had his own style, and I loved his style, which was kind of feminine. It was very beautiful, elegant sushi, and it's pretty, and he used flowers and orchids, and everything was glass and eloquently, and very, the presentation was very...
Great experiences. Like I went twice, and great experiences.
Yeah. And when he got a Michelin star, I was very happy for him and Yume. And listen, what's good for anybody in the business is good for all of us, right? It just helps build our notoriety and our reputation in Chicago as being, the food capital of North America now. So we connected and talked to each other. I've always wanted to do a project with Otto, and I'm still hopeful that's going to happen. I've been going to his restaurant almost on a weekly basis, and he's going to make some changes there that are really positive and amazing.
He said he wanted to finally give back to the city.
Yeah, which is smart because, he became a Chicagoan the instant he realized, like, I'm getting back from Chicago exactly what I put into it. He's like, all he's done is worked his balls off, right?
Yeah.
And even though, despite all the, and that's the greatest thing. So I think what people don't realize is that he's gravely misunderstood. He's so passionate and so, he's got this laser focus on what his goal and what his primary objective is, that what he says a lot of times is misconstrued as being arrogant or cocky.
Right.
And I'll put it this way. Like, one of the greatest quotes I ever heard was Ronda Rousey.
Okay.
And Ronda Rousey, a lot of people were hating on her and saying she's cocky and this and that and arrogant. And she simply said, she's like, and she did it in a way that was very, like, curt, kind of like, he speaks without a filter, right? It's not that he believes he's the best, he wants to be the best, but that's not the way it comes out.
Yeah.
Right? So he said, Ronda Rousey, when they said, well, what do you say to all your contractors that say you're cocky and you're arrogant and this, that, the other, and you're a champion and you're whatever, you're the best? Well, how dare you condemn me for believing in myself, for thinking I'm the best and wanting to be the best? Like, that's all I'm doing. Like, the way you see it is me being cocky and saying I'm the best. And
I love that.
But Otto literally is reinforcing positively. He's telling himself on a constant basis, I want to be the best. I got to be the best. I don't want to ever be second.
Yeah.
I want to be different. I want to dare to be different in Chicago and do something that nobody else is doing. I was doing it, but in a different, subtle way. I wanted to steer people's heads and turn them in a different direction. Like, let's honor sushi, the tradition of it, and it's rooted in tradition, but let's show people a new style or a new way of doing it. And he's just boldly coming saying out, I'm not going to be subtle. This is my style. If you notice his sushi, it's very luxurious. It's all about texture, which is what I loved. One of the things I loved about BK Sushi is that, like I said, it's very
it's feminine, but
it's all a texture thing.
Yeah.
Right? You think about sushi, it's original food porn. You start eating with your eyes. It's very visual. It's very pretty. It's almost like art. And then once you put it in your mouth, you taste freshness through texture.
Yeah.
You can't smell, like, if it's a rancid, you can smell it from 3 feet away. But the thing about sushi is you can really tell first and foremost visually how fresh sushi grade sushi is. But the texture is the other thing. Not only because whether or not it's fresh, because you actually don't want it fresh. But what Otto does is he dry ages a lot of his fish,
right?
So that the enzymes and the umami get to break down in the fish a little bit. Because if you pull a salmon out of the ocean and 2 hours later you cut up and give it to someone in sashimi, the texture isn't going to be right because there's a certain amount of rigor mortis and stiffness, and it's too fresh. You have to let it rest. You have to let it decompose a little, just like a dry aged steak.
Right.
Dry ages for 30, 60, or 90 days.
That blew my mind. Is like the moment it drops on your
plate is the perfect time.
It's the optimum time
that
needed.
chef
The
has
rice,
given it to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and that's the other thing. People don't realize the subtleties of really amazing, impressive sushi is
Yeah.
that he makes balls of rice, and his cuts of fish are teardrops. They're not rectangle pieces
yeah.
like BK and a lot of other people do.
Yeah.
It's very traditionally Japanese. It's also very traditionally masa. Like I've eaten at masa. I've eaten
Okay.
at masa in Japan. Like it's very Japanese. It's very
Okay.
traditional. It's petite almost. It's bite size. Like a lot of times sushi, the rice is rectangular, and then the fish is cut
Yeah.
in a rectangle. So you almost have to eat it in 2 bites. If you eat
Okay.
it in 1 bite like you're supposed to, it's a mouthful. But this one, it gives you the room and the availability to feel the texture, and also gives you that, like a wine, it gives you that space to really, for lack of a better word, bouquet
Right.
of the flavor of
Right.
whether he's topping it with soy or he puts caviar, or, whatever he puts on, pickled dashi or whatever.
Uni, yeah,
You really get
yeah.
a chance to favor when you put a large piece of sushi
Oh
in your
my
mouth,
God.
which is actually traditional.
Is it really?
Traditional sushi is actually
I didn't know
huge.
that.
Yeah.
What's the yuzu? It was like I looked like I had chipmunk cheeks.
Yeah.
It was
I
uncomfortable.
think that's rice too. They put a lot of rice with their
going nuts with the
and
sauce.
use-
Everyone has their own style. Yeah.
I don't
yeah,
put
yeah.
down any
Yeah. Yeah.
restaurant. It's not a negative.
How would you, not no negativity to this?
Yeah.
Obviously, they're both great, but like, how do you compare masa to kyoten? How would
I think it's better, and I'll tell you why. I went with my best friend Paul. Who I didn't go with Paul. I went when I was on when I was at Lettuce. We went and did 18 omakases in New York, and we did 24 in LA.
wow?
And when I was in New York, I was doing 2 omakases a day. When I was in LA, I was doing 2 or 3
Is this
a day.
research?
This was research before we opened
Before
Naoki together.
Oh, Naoki. Oh, okay, okay.
And I went to Masa, and although Rich Mellon picked up the bill and it was on him for research and development,
Right.
I saw the bill, and so you think about this. It's like the next day I had a hangover, but it was like it was wallet hangover. Like I thought, wow, like that meal was over $1,000. Do I get the same quality of fish and the same quality technique and like maybe even better rice than Masa? What you're paying for is the Masa brand. Don't get me wrong. His sushi
Right.
in New York is top 3 level,
Right.
right? But you're in the Time Warner building, so I imagine rent's got to be about $60,000 for
Yeah.
that space. That it's
Otto
in.
killed it with that.
Yeah.
In Logan.
Yeah. So, it's like if you could have the same food that you have at Spiaggia, but at a place in Logan Square in 1,500 square feet, and there's a couple places like that do homemade pasta
Yeah.
from hand. Same caviar,
Right.
same truffles,
Right.
same wine,
Right. Yeah.
but 1/3 the price. So if I had to weigh things out, I think Kyoten's better than Masa.
Mm.
And Masa's not even at Masa anymore. So
Oh, I didn't know that.
he's in Japan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Went back to okay.
Yeah. He's got a restaurant. He's got a sushi bar in Japan.
Did you ever? I didn't ask Otto this, but did you ever like pull Otto aside and was like, "Hey, you come off as arrogant."
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
On the one hand, I didn't have to because I told him to his face, I didn't want to like you. I don't even think I described that. When I shook his hand, I said, I didn't want to like you. I didn't want to like your sushi, but this is the best sushi in Chicago. And he said, yeah. He goes, I'm actually really quiet and kind of shy and introverted when I'm in front of people. And and that's him. Like even at the John Bonchet Awards, like he gave a speech and a lot of people were looking at each other like this, like, and I know him, so I understood
Right.
his narrative.
Yeah.
But like I said, he's gravely misunderstood because he's curt. Because he's like in Pulp Fiction, he's the wolf. He's the cleaner. you
Okay.
know.
Okay.
If I'm curt, it's because I'm professional and I'm just, he's all
To the point. Yeah. Yeah.
he's all result.
Yeah.
I don't want to. Who cares what it takes to get there? Who's to blame? How we do it? He's like, I just want to be the best. And you have to look at that because really that takes a lot of balls. You know, to not sugarcoat things, to
Yeah.
not filter things, to not worry about what other people are going to say or think, and give no fucks, and just say, I want to be the best at this.
Yeah.
I want to be the best sushi restaurant in Chicago. I want to be the best omakase. I want to provide an experience, and I want to provide. What most people also don't realize, and he hasn't put out on social media, is that I think he does it through video, but every night there's 2-3 fish that there's nobody in Chicago has. Not Mako, not Yume, not Mirai, not Kaizen.
Yeah.
You know, and don't get me wrong, does that make him better than anyone else? But then people who know see the passion. Like, he's literally trying to source fish that nobody else has, or can get, or will get, or does carry
Yeah.
in Chicago.
Yeah. Not only that, it's like even like the vinegar. And just
Yeah.
like his drink menu is just like top tier stuff.
Yeah, you know what him and Justin, who's the Sam over
Right,
there, are doing
right.
there is, I love that it's the best kept secret, because it gives him lots of room to be discovered and grow, and for him to kind of open up to the rest of the Chicago
Yeah.
food scene that hasn't. Because don't get me wrong, he could only do 8 people at a time, so
Right.
he's doing 16 people a night, right?
Right.
5 nights a week.
Right.
So he's going to get there. He's only been here for a little over a year. He's already gotten a Jean Pache Award for
Yeah.
Best New
He's shooting
Restaurant.
for Michelin.
Will he get James Baird? Will he get a Michelin? I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope I don't know if he really cares about that. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But if he gets it, I think it'll be deserved.
He expressed that he really cared about loyalty. People that like returning guests.
I think that's the biggest award you can get.
Yeah.
For me, the only thing I've cared about is that people would come to a restaurant because I was there. They wanted to see me. They didn't really even care if it was a restaurant group from LA or Let Us Entertain You, or
Yeah.
they just wanted to come see me.
Do you find restaurants changing after they've been discovered, or they win certain awards, or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
They change. Like, some change. Most of them change for the better, because then they even become more humble. The ones that start believing their own press, and then let's not fix it if it's not broke. Like, we got this award, so let's write. Like, but that's human nature. A lot of people do that. They sit on their own accolades, or they're
Right.
the ones that are really seasoned, experienced. Don't ever. They're you
Settle.
look at here's the craziest thing. Like, what I've learned in the last 4 months at the Time Out Market.
Yeah.
I'm across from the stall directly across from me is Bill Kim. I love that guy and look up to him. He's the only preeminent Korean chef that came from Trotters and opened his own restaurants and his own brand.
Mm-hmm.
And then next to him is Brian Enyart from Dose Urban. He's one of my best buds. Tai Dang.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Tai Dang. I'm at the Time Out Market because of Tai Dang, and I followed his footsteps there because he believed in it so much, and he actually,
I didn't know that.
yeah, he actually had a big role in me being there. Tai Dang is
Did you
amazing.
see his post today? Like, he and Danielle are at the shop in Pilsen, repurposing and packaging leftover food and then redistributing it to the community.
Yeah.
And people in the hospitality industry that could use the food.
I don't think there's two greater human beings that deserve more amazing success and good karma
Yeah.
and wonderful, wonderful abundance than Tai Dang and his wife Danielle. They obviously deserve a lot of things because the obvious reason, of what happened to them at Mbeya and that horrible human being that they were partners with. But on another note, they're just, aside from all that, do you know what it takes on a daily? I do, because we've all had bad partners. Almost everybody I know has had a bad partner in this business. They had the worst situation happen to them. It affected their family. It affected their lives to the core. For them to get up every day now, and even though they have a successful restaurant, to still have to deal with,
It's still
a piece
going
of
on.
garbage
Yeah.
human being,
Yeah.
and still put on a happy face and be positive. And like I said, like, everybody's struggle is internal. Every day you're just battling your own self, your own limitations, your own fears, your own limits. And they push the limit every day on how do I become a better human being today? How do I do more for my employees? How do I do more for my guests? How do I do more for my wife and my partner? How do I do more for my friends and peers? Like,
Right.
he is constantly like this little Tasmanian chef devil
Yeah.
that is always spinning. Like, how do I do more for other people?
Right.
How do I, for me, and I'm the most positive person in the world, I get inspired from him. Everybody I get inspiration from, first and foremost, is the industry around me. You know, my best friend Curtis inspires me. Ty Dang and his wife inspire me to no end. All my friends that have to deal with, you know, all the struggles and everything that they're dealing with on a daily basis of running a small business and a small restaurant brand, they inspire me. Because at one point, I told you last time I was here, I gave up for a year and a half. I took a knee and said, I don't know what to do. You know, this business becomes harder and harder every year. It becomes more and more expensive. It becomes more and more competitive. The costs keep going up. Real estate keeps going up. Rent keeps going up. And then the quality labor pool diminishes every year. So, you know, you need to sometimes take a step back, take a deep breath, and then reapproach things. And they do that on a daily basis. All my friends do. And so I guess because I'm a little bit jaded and a little bit older, I really look to my industry professional peers and best friends for inspiration. They keep me sane. They keep me inspired. They keep me motivated more than anything.
Yeah.
Like, I see what they do on a daily basis and the balls they have to juggle and the hurdles they have to get over. And now look what's happened. Now all restaurants are closed. So now we're all sitting in the same boat.
Yeah.
You know, we're all dressed up. We have nowhere to go. We have no other options. So what are they doing? They're giving away a loss.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a loss already, right? They bought all this product, and then we're told the next day, you know, they bought all the inventory for the next week, and then we're all told, hey, we're going to close on Monday. So what did they do? They could have made that family meal for the next 3-4 days, right? And saved money on their own bottom line and their own food costs to provide meals for their own. But they said, no, let's give it out to the community. Let's give it out to the homeless. Like, they're an amazing model.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of what to be as a good human.
I feel warm and fuzzy.
This has definitely been warm and fuzzy.
Woo.
We have a couple of tequilas. We're going to be really warm and fuzzy.
Who introduced you to Fortaleza?
Here's the funniest thing. I used to be a Scotch drinker.
Yeah.
I drank nothing but copious amounts of Scotch. So much so that I have 30 bottles in my bar. Every Christmas, all the guys at the dojo still give me Johnny Walker Black, because I would drink Johnny Walker Black and soda and smoke a cigarette like I was fucking Korean Dean Martin. And I was doing 2 shows a night in Vegas. I would always have a Black Label and soda, and I could drink
Right, because you're coasting. Yeah.
liters of it.
Right.
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 And then it was funny. It was when I had opened a place called Urban Union, and I've only wanted to have one craft spirit in each category. So I only want to have one tequila,
Oh yeah.
one Scotch when we opened.
Right.
Like, and we were very small, and it was, you know, it was everything cooked over a wood burning brick oven.
Yeah.
And it was Spanish. My 3 favorite foods was Italian, Spanish, and French
Damn.
food. Right,
Wow.
but real provincial, like whatever a grandmother is cooking in Spain, Italy, or France.
Wow.
And so we started out, you know, I didn't want to have extravagant cocktails, and, you know, I just wanted to have like the 5 classics. And then I wanted, like, if you wanted a tequila, it would just, and the rep brought by a bunch of stuff, and all the reps did. And out of everything I tasted, I didn't even really care for tequila. You know, like most people, I had a very bad experience in Cancun on Molly with my friend Jeff Hemmings and Steve Magyar and Jeff Buscemi, and we drank too much tequila and wound up, you know, passing out on the beach in a pool of our own dried vomit the next day. And so I stayed away from tequila, and I wasn't a drinker. And when I started drinking, I drank Scotch. And then so out of all the tequilas I had tasted, there was Ocho, there was all this tequila. I liked how clean and smooth. There was two. There was Mastro Doble and Fortaleza, and I loved Blanco because it tastes like agave. You know,
Pure.
Yeah, and it tasted really clean. So that was the only. I never drank it, but I always recommend it because I believed in it. And then when I opened Juno, I had it on the shelf. Same thing. I only carried 2 tequilas, and that was one of them. I think the other one was Casa Azul because I like that. And because I had tasted it out. And then this guy Howard came in. He's like, "Oh, you carry Fortaleza? I love that stuff." I'm like, and that kind of piqued my interest. And then one of my best friends, who's a very well-known chef, him and I were gonna go to a UFC fight to watch it at a friend's bar. And he's like, "Let's pregame here." And he's like, "You have Fortaleza? I love Fortaleza." And they had carried Fortaleza at the restaurant he was at before he opened his own restaurant. And so I was like, we'll drink it. And we wound up drinking like almost 2 bottles because that's how like clean. Over ice, it was just so clean. And then we went to our friend's bar to watch the UFC fight, and we ordered some more. And by the end of the night, I'm like, did we just drink all that? And I wasn't drunk.
Huh.
I feeling no pain. I was happy. It was like happy juice. It was like feel good
Yeah.
liquor. And then that's all she wrote.
Wow.
It's all I drink.
I'll keep an eye out.
I learned a lot about it being, trying to be health minded aside from the cheeseburgers.
Right.
It's easiest to metabolize out of all the spirits. It's probiotic.
I didn't hear that one. I've never heard that one.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I spew out these statistics like from Clueless, like, you burn calories drinking it. Like, and it puts protein into the muscles, and it's like it's a protein drink.
I really like that
and
protein
it's
shake video.
Probiotic, and it's you burn calories and it's the easiest to metabolize.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm a big advocate, and I promote it because I believe in it and I love it.
Yeah.
And Fortaleza takes care of me.
Sponsor this video, Fortaleza.
Drink Fortaleza.
Is there anything else you wanted to add? Or this was like, I consider this like a prelude to your book.
Yeah. So that's really like, you look back in your life and, I've had a really amazing, interesting life because the majority of the time people probably like, yeah, he's full of shit.
Well, they only know one sliver.
Yeah. And they only see one side of me. And, here's the other thing. Like, the bane of my existence has been that, and I'm not saying this from, I'm not aggrandizing myself. I'm not trying to be conceited or self-centered or vain in any way, by no means. But all the problems I've had in my life, professionally or socially, have been people. Some people, it's like 1 out of 50, just do not like me. They never met me. They don't like me. They do not like me because they know everybody likes me. Like, we know that guy.
They're lost.
That's because I'm old, because I went to a huge high school. I'm born and raised in Chicago. I've always tried to do amazing things for the people that helped me get to where I wanted, because I always knew that whatever situation I'm in at work, whether it was at the Merc or in any of the restaurants I opened as a consultant or as a manager or that I owned, your friends brag for you, right? I try to be humble. I really do, especially the last few years of my life.
Yeah.
I try to be very, very humble and gracious. Although I love talking about my life and what I believe in and things I feel very strongly about. I'm a very private person. What I put out on social media is the things, my passions: working out, being motivational, being positive, the restaurant business, whatever I'm doing. And so with that being said, I've come to realize not only my own mortality, but my parents, especially everything that's been going on recently. And I'll give you an example. One of the most amazing things that my mother's, obviously, I'm a mama's boy. My mother has been the first teacher I ever had. She's never lied to me, not even one white lie. And since I was a little child, she's always thought, I will be the only person that never lies to you. You know, my stepfather is the most amazing man because he adopted me. He's not my real biological father. My mom wouldn't marry him because he wanted to have, she's like, you're going to want to have children of your own. And if I do that, I marry you and give you children, you're going to treat my son differently. And he's like, I will never ask you to have a kid. I will make Jason my son. And he did. And he lives up to his word.
Wow.
He loved my mom and me better than any father, biological father ever could. And my father, I say this all the time, my father only did one thing my entire life, and he did it every day. He believed in me. Every day he was like, you know, you can do this. If there's anybody who can do it, it's you. He always believed in me. Good, bad, or ugly. The stupidest idea to the best idea to the craziest idea to the most lofty,
That's fun. That's
far-fetched
awesome.
idea.
Is your mom still asking you to be a chiropractor?
Here's what my mom wants. You know, if I could marry a Korean singer and, you know, quickly have as many grandchildren with her as I could and somehow wear a white coat
Right. Yeah.
or be an engineer or
Right.
yeah, she'd be pretty happy. You know, because, you know, I know for a fact, not because my mom jammed it down my throat, but she had 3 dreams for me, as any mother does when they give birth to their child. The only 3 things she hoped for me when she came to this country and gave birth to me was that she would see me get married, she would see me graduate college, and she would see me be a father. And, you know, none of those came into fruition for her. I got kicked out of college and went to prison. I got divorced and have 7 godchildren, which is worse than having no children.
Oh man.
From my mom.
Right. Exactly.
She's like, you love all these children like they're your own, and you know you should have your own. And you know, I think having children is a gift. I think it's a gift from the universe. I don't think it's bad or negative that I don't have any children. It's just that I was so concerned and consumed. You know what I was worried? I was more worried about whether or not I would be a good father. It kind of prevented me from being a father. And now, at this juncture in my life, I know
that
how
you could
amazing of a father I would be. And that's okay. Because, you know, having children isn't for everyone. And it's never too late. Hey, Charlie Chaplin had kids when he was 83. So,
oh my God.
You know, I won't be able to pick them up. That's an old joke. But, you know, I live a really blessed life, and whatever dreams and hopes that my parents have for me is another reason why. If there's one thing I want to, you know, every person wants to leave something behind. A lot of time it's children. You don't have to write a book. You don't have to do amazing things and win awards. And you know, I've won lots of great awards that I'm really, really proud of. You know, several. I've achieved what I set out to achieve in my life and make people happy and you know, more importantly, make myself happy. And that paradigm changed immensely and poignantly, you know, when I got through my battle with cancer, and it changed me. Things that I would worry about, I never worry about anymore. The little things in life, I never sweat the little things, but then that's the irony. And that's what's really fucked up, is that the most important things in life are really the smallest things in life.
Yeah.
But then the worst things that you shouldn't worry about are also the small things in life. So you have to distinguish what those small things are, right? And it's hard. It's, you know, don't get me wrong. I've, like I said, I'm not perfect. I'm no angel by any means. I've made a lot of mistakes, but none that I regret.
Yeah.
You know, you never regret the things you do. You only regret the things you didn't do. And there's only, you know, I think that's maybe one of the only regrets I'll have, is that I didn't have a child.
Yeah.
But who's to say, you know, at this age I can't adopt or meet someone that has a child that I'm going to love as much as my father
Right.
loved
Right.
me,
Exactly.
and I wasn't his biological child. So, you know, I think history rhymes. It doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but maybe history will rhyme.
I like that. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, that's what I believe in.
Huh.
My friend Esther.
Oh, she said that?
Yeah.
Huh. Esther Garcia. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Well, you want to wrap this episode?
Yeah, I think, here's the thing. That's the thing about life and our relationship and what you do for a living and what I do for a living. We could do this every day. I could pull so many crazy things out of my ass that you wouldn't even
It's
like
definitely
believe.
worthy of a book.
Dating Anna Nicole Smith. Meeting the people that I've met that people wouldn't believe. The dinner I went to the other night with the people I was sitting at the table. If I told you who they were, you wouldn't believe me because there's a Hollywood actor and a guy who's, a major stadium's named after and, guy who runs a major financial institution. I have lived such a robust, full, abundant, amazing life and all the things that have happened to me. Like if we just did an episode and I named the 12 top things in my life that happened to me and the people that were involved in it, it would be a movie. It would be a script for a movie. And so that's why I guess, wrapping this up, this is all really, I wanted you to learn more about the other side of just restaurants. Because everybody kind of knows me.
Right.
I guess the general public in general just knows me. Oh, that's the guy that has been in the restaurant business forever.
Okay.
Or that's the guy that is a martial arts guy. There's so many things other than that, the story behind my parents and my mom and everything I did before I got to this point is exactly what I want to try to write about. Because like I said, I was very inspired by one of my best friends. He's got he's got like a documentary and a book coming out about him. And not that I wanted to jump on the bandwagon and try to be put myself in a spotlight.
Yeah.
That's not why I'm doing it.
Right.
But I think at my age and for my point in my career, what I've done, I think it would be something that everybody would really enjoy because it's a human story and it's about a lot of things. It's about, I've been through fires and disease and all kinds of shit in my life. And do I want to be an example and have some sort of record for other people who are gone through the same thing that I've gone through, and they can read it and take what they need from it and, put themselves in a better or more positive place because of it, then that's what it's really all about. It's not about, putting the focus on myself and putting me on in a spotlight, in a favorable light, because a lot of it's unfavorable, actually.
No. But there's a lot of lessons from it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's fighting.
Yeah.
You either win or you learn a really, really amazing lesson about how to win next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, buddy, for coming on again.
I can't thank you enough for having me. And
You could have been on any other podcast.
I like your podcast.
Thank you, but I'm honored.
I'm honored to be here, and I appreciate we got the opportunity to do this again. And it's talking about everything and not really one thing, which is what I like.
Mm-hmm.
Last time was more focused on the restaurant and hospitality business, and scratching the surface of me and my background. But I wanted to come back and just kind of talk friend to friend.
I love learning. And
Same
hearing
here.
about it.
That's what it's all about.
Okay.
That's what it's all about. So
And
thanks for having me.
as this podcast progresses, I try to realize or remember that no one is just their title or their work.
No.
We're all so much more than that.
I think we're the sum total of our experiences. not our
Exactly.
title.
And this podcast started as like a career, like a passion-driven podcast, but I thoroughly enjoy uncovering what makes that guest in addition to their passion and in addition to their job title. Like,
Sure.
there's so much more.
Well,
to
and
it.
I want to nominate a few people for you
Oh,
to,
yeah.
to speak with and sit down with, because a lot of them I think have equally, if not even grander stories than my story. I
Mhm.
mean, everybody has one.
Right.
I have a lot. The people I think it's really imperative that we get Phil Foss on here so that he can get his message out, because that's really important. And right now, I don't think that message could be more important while the whole industry is sitting at home quarantined with no source of income,
Mhm.
probably sitting in their own feelings and thinking about a lot of shit, like the choices they made in their business because we're all questioning that. To be honest with you, like, you know, it's so funny because when I heard they're going to close all the restaurants, and we were told the day before that to close, they're going to close the food hall, I was like, this is so typical of the restaurant business. Like, just when you think that Murphy's Law,
Yeah.
like, we're thriving,
Yeah.
we're kicking ass, we're taking
Yeah.
names, everything's like, one day you're basking in the sun and the sails are full of wind, and then 12 hours later, you're bashed against the rocks, shattered against the rocks, and no hope of what, 3, 5, 6 weeks?
Yeah.
None of us are going to have a source of income. Okay, what if we do try to get unemployment? What if we try to apply for whatever stimulus or relief fund? That's all going to be retro. In other words, yeah,
What do we do
trying-
now?
What do we do now? How do I
Yeah.
get money in my, like, I'm supposed to get a check next week. Where's that going to come from?
Yeah.
Because I just budgeted everything for the restaurant, for everything. So, you know, it's, you know, if there's anything that holds true for the business that we're in, you know, tough times don't last. Absolutely. Tough people do. Our restaurant hospitality professionals, tough. They're the toughest in the world, if you ask me. So I think right now is a time when I think a lot of people, what's going to happen? A lot of people are going to get pregnant. A lot of people are going to drink more. A lot of people are going to get more depressed. I think crime might go up. You know, because what happens in a time like this is what everybody's trying to prevent, when the real prevention with this is panic. I think what's going to happen in 3 to 5 weeks is people that are really insolvent and at the bottom of the poverty pool.
Desperation.
Think what happens when you don't have anything, you don't give a fuck.
You have nothing to lose.
You have nothing to lose. So that's like, okay, well, you know, it's time to.
Well, hopefully, I mean, I see a lot of outpouring of support from each other as well, you know. So hopefully everyone hold each other close during this.
Well, I know that's going to, you know, it's already
tough
happening
times.
in the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot of, hey, I see this as prohibition. For me, I think it's like I'm going in the other direction. I don't want to hide in fear and wait for this thing to blow over and to wait and to be quarantined and like, and I'm not being an anarchist. I'm not being defiant. What I'm being is I just don't want to sit at home and not do anything.
Yeah.
So, you know, I see it as like prohibition. I see it as like,
Yeah, they can't stop you right now, but you understand. I mean, the whole concept is so you might be a carrier right now.
oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the fact that I work in a hospital, I might be. I'm probably a
Abso-fucking-lutely.
carrier.
I don't doubt that I am.
We're asymptomatic.
I mean, we talked about this earlier, and I've
Right,
talked about it so
right.
many times in life. Like, I don't doubt, like, I never get sick.
So, but it's who you come in contact with.
Yeah.
Whether it's your parents.
I've come
or
in contact
other
with
immunocompromised patients.
5,000 people a day at the food hall.
Right. Right.
Right. So, do I think I'm a carrier? Absolutely. But am I going to sit here and, you know,
Not live your life.
is it for the better good in the public that I'm not exposing myself to other people? Absolutely. Absolutely. I do the elbow bump. I try not to get within too close of a perimeter of everyone. I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is like there's things you can do. Then, you know, people are really diving into the whole quarantine.
Oh, like yeah.
Like, let's just get toilet paper and tequila, whatever it is you want to fucking stockpile up on, and then just stay at home and do nothing.
No,
like wait
no,
for
yeah,
this.
that's not-
Like it was, you know, like biblical in the 10 Commandments when you just stay at home, especially if you had the lamb's blood painted over your door. And you
Yeah.
just wait for
Hunker down.
death
Yeah.
to pass over your door and skip you. Like, to me, all the people that can't fight, won't fight, and are stockpiling everything, guess what? All that shit is mine now. You stockpiled all that for me, because I'm not going to just sit here and, you know, come on over. I have toilet paper. That's stupid. It's so stupid. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't want to be, I don't want to spew rhetoric. I don't want to, I don't have a plan. I don't know what to do, but I know we have to do something. You know, I know we all collectively as a group, as Chicagoans, as a civilized city, we have to do something, because if we rely on the governor or the mayor or the government to come up with a plan and tell us what we should do, I don't know if that's necessarily the answer, because I don't want to just sit at home and, confine myself so that nobody else gets it, and not expose myself so that nobody else gives it to me, and to wait to see what the government and all the research and tells me that we should be doing, because
What are operators doing for their team though?
So that's interesting,
It's not
because
just
the
you
plan
know?
was, when we heard the news the day before they announced that they're going to close, because we were actually told to close the day before the city announced that they're closing all the restaurants. I was like, okay, well, we'll transplant all these employees from the food hall. Like, I'm lucky. I'm the labor at my food stall. My partner Christine does all the production with a baking assistant. So we have 2 employees. We have a baking assistant, and we have one person that works the stall so that I can have 2 nights off. And my other business partner, the admin investor business partner, who's a very integral part of our partnership, he works 2-3 days so I can get some time off. Now, at the point we were at before this thing closed, which is finally the promised land, was to transplant people there. So I think now the only thing we can do is, that's what everybody's spinning their wheels. Is like, we need to activate the city and the city government, the governor of Illinois and the mayor of this city, to come up with some sort of package, some sort of compensation, some sort of emergency pay, so that people can, a tax exemption, whatever they can do to make these people's lives easier. Because nobody knows this, but this is a real statistic. The number 1 employer in the whole United States is the government. The number 2 employer is the restaurant industry.
Okay.
You go to any town, any city,
That's insane.
any part of any country, of any state in this country, the second largest employer in that state is the restaurant business.
Okay.
Number 1 is the government.
Yeah.
So, army, military, post office, whatever.
Yeah.
So everyone's spinning their wheel. What can we do? I think what we can do is buy a lot of gift certificates.
Okay.
Encourage people that work at restaurants, own restaurants, to put on their social media, to put on their website, to put on their digital ecosystem, that you have to buy gift certificates, either over the phone, through online, buy it for the restaurant so there's income coming in. And then when this whole thing blows over, use that gift certificate to take your wife or your girlfriend or your best friend out and use it, because we need an influx of cash. That's number 1. Number 2, I think, everything's moved to delivery. So hopefully a lot of the essential employees that were at the food hall and are servers or whatnot, a lot of people are just doing delivery. So now I know Grubhub and a lot of other secondary delivery systems are waiving a lot of fees and whatnot, and not taking any profit, and not capitalizing or being opportunistic right now at a low time. And Mark Malnati, I think that's one of the most amazing things today. He announced that he's hiring as many delivery driver, because his business is going to go up.
Is he
now.
Grubhub? Who is he?
No, he owns Malnati's, Lou Malnati's.
Oh, Illuminati's. Oh, okay.
So now he's offering, he posted it everywhere on their website,
hiring
on
drivers.
their social media and Instagram, like, come be a driver for Lou Malnati's. We have a shortage. We can take all the extra people that are now out of jobs, and you'll get cash tips at the end of the night every night. So I think that's amazing. So I think a lot of bigger corporations, like I would hope that Let Us Entertain You steps up to the place, because they can certainly take the hit for the next 3-4 weeks. Think about this. How many employees does Let Us Entertain You have, do you think? It's close to 100,000.
I was going to say tens of thousands. 100,000.
They own 140 restaurants.
Okay,
let's just
I
say
didn't
there's
know that.
10. Yeah, let's just say there's 50 employees at each restaurant. It's a lot.
Okay.
So, all these restaurants closing, all the ones that can absorb, and it means not making a profit and just going bare minimum and covering their food costs, covering their labor costs. I would hope that they would step up to the plate. I would hope that a lot of other big companies and corporations that are making money and not seeing a change in their revenue would step up to the plate and say, hey, listen, this is what we're going to donate to a fund that needs to be set up to somehow be delegated to restaurant employees, because it's a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not the smartest guy in any room by any means, but I know that, I guess what I'm saying is that I don't want to do nothing.
I hear you. But are you trying to skip town as well? Like, does it?
Well, that was a plan, but the way things are going and what I've seen I think from San Francisco and New Jersey now, like my plan was to jump in a car and drive to see my family in North Carolina now that I have all this time off. Stop in Louisiana and Atlanta to see chef friends and senseis that have schools,
okay.
Shidokan schools in Atlanta.
So it'd still be a productive
And then
trip.
go to Florida and stay with one of my close friends and hang out with him and his wife. And just, if I'm going to do nothing, I'd rather sit in the sun drinking tequila. But now there's talk about a curfew. There's talk about interstate travel ban. You know, they're trying to literally, I think the president said today, like anything where there's more than 10 people, we want to close down. So that's martial law, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, do I think I'm not being a naysayer or paranoid or a conspiracy theorist, but I think if what the government's doing now, the next progression, the next steps are curfew and like martial law and like don't be out after 5 o'clock. And we don't want people traveling from Chicago to Florida.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting times. But like you said earlier, I think we'll definitely come out brighter on top. I think this is going to force us to be creative and more cohesive as a community. And then after, I think it blows over, you know?
You know, there's a Ernest Hemingway quote, and there's a lot of quotes very similar to that, you know, the world is a harsh place that breaks you, but you always become stronger in the places that you were broken. So I think, you know, this is going to shed new light for all of us that are in the trenches. Like people in the restaurant business and chefs and people in the kitchen in particular are always called trenchermen. There are people in the trenches all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're always in a foxhole
fighting, and it's who you're in the foxhole with. It's your sous chef, it's your line cooks, and it's your your pastry chef. Like, you're always in that foxhole, whether there's a war going on or not. You're just always in a foxhole. And now that we're all not in a foxhole, we have no foxhole, right? They close the foxholes, no foxholes.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to magnify people, just like what I went through. It magnified my life, my paradigm, my perception, and my
When this is your
perspective on
identity,
things.
right?
I think after this, when we all go back into that foxhole, we're going to treat each other differently. We're going to be a stronger, even stronger unit than before. I think there's going to be more synergy between front of the house and back of the house.
Cool.
I think there's going to be a greater respect and humility. Like, if anything, if at all else, like when you see the news and you see people that have dealing with feast and famine, or famine, and countries that are exiled, people are exiled. You see President Trump passing out toilet paper to people in Puerto Rico, and what they're now, like, wow. I went to the grocery store today, and there was everything that college kids eat. There was not
The ramen.
there was no
mac
ramen.
and cheese,
There was
yeah.
no bread. There was no mac and cheese.
Right,
There was like, even I went to 2 different Mariano's in Whole Foods, and like, it's crazy, like the mentality.
Yeah.
Right now, right? And so it makes you appreciate everything. Like, wow, those people that were displaced because of war, or because of famine, or because of hurricane, like, that's real misery. They don't have a
that was their
home.
everyday.
We have the luxury of saying, okay, we're going to stay at home and watch Netflix and eat frozen food and canned food. You know how many people in the world don't have that? I think it'll, if anything, this will hopefully unify everybody, not only in the restaurant community, but as a civilization, and definitely as a city, that, maybe something amazing and great is going to come out of this. Like I said, chaos always precedes amazing change.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, I'm ready to wrap this.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
What time is it?
10. So thank you guys
So how
for
many hours is
staying
that?
tuned.
Holy
3 hours.
That's not good. I'm sorry. That
No,
was
you're
too long,
good.
buddy.
This is the second 3 hour episode.
Holy shit.
I had another 3 hour. Yeah. No, 2. This is the third 3 hour
Oh,
episode.
wow.
But thank you guys for staying tuned. You know where to find Jason at iFightDirty at Instagram. When can we expect a book? If we were to put it out in the universe.
What I'm going to try to do right now is, like, I want to
I'm going to spend the next 3 to 5 weeks focusing on the infrastructure of my business with my partners.
Sure.
We're going to, ramp up. We're going over things we need to change, things that were strong, things that were weak, what we can do better when we go back to the timeout market, and the other aspects that are involved with our business that are, supplemental to that. But I'm also going to take the time to get an outline done and try to stay creative and try to stay productive. And again, the whole impetus is motivation and be inspirational. And so I'm going to base everything that I'm writing about on that, and just try to create something that's going to be hugely and immensely inspirational, motivational for people to draw from.
Yep. Okay. Cool. All right, guys. Stay curious. Aloha. I'll see you in the next episode.